All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another stream. Doing something a little bit different today. We're gonna be doing a let's see. We're on Steam right now. That's not right. Hold on. Let me just pull up the tab. Ragnar Blackmane. Right here. There he is. Oh, that's my stream. Hold up. There we go. How unprofessional me. Ragnar Blackmane, 40k lore by the Amber King. That's the one. This is what we're doing today, ladies and gentlemen. Hell yeah. This was recommended to me by our Prefect Fyr, so big thank you to you, Fyr. I don't think he's in the chat right now, so he's probably going to be a little bit upset that he's missing this one, but it is what it is, you know, you're late, you know, I posted the time, this is a pre-designated thing, that's how it works. But yeah, we're going to be checking it out here today. Ragnar Blackmane. What Space Wolves, if I recall, right? Yeah, Wolf Boys. So we're going to see where that goes. I hear that he's actually a very, very relatable character, this Ragnar, that he's actually very beloved. He's got a lot of very good quotes, much like the Mephiston one that we checked out, what was that, last week there? Fucking amazing quotes in that video, and apparently this kind of like matches that level, so I'm really excited to see like how exactly that looks. We're gonna have to see how it goes. If you guys enjoy, of course, make sure you leave a like, subscribe for more content from me, and of course leave your recommendations down in the comments below. Of course, big thank you to all of our members, all of our Hastati, our Principes, Dagenhart and Hobbit, and of course our Prefect Fyr. Appreciate you guys. You guys inspire me to make more content for you guys every single day. And yeah, guys, I mean, I don't really know a whole lot about him. I don't really have a whole lot to say. Space Wolves, I'll be completely honest with you guys, I've not really checked out anything about the Space Wolves Legion. You know, I guess, I don't know, the Vikings in space, it's not that I like hate the aesthetic, it's just like, I don't know, I feel like in the 40k universe, to me personally, I just feel like there's like, I don't know, a lot more things that interest me otherwise, but that doesn't mean I'm like not opposed to checking out the characters, stuff like that, or checking out the Legion itself. Obviously I want to get to checking out all the Legions at some point and giving them all their just due, but you know, that stuff takes time. There's so much to 40k, so we got to start somewhere. But yeah, it's good to see you guys here. Thank you guys for tuning in. I know a little bit of a regular time for this type of thing. We are of course going to still be streaming tomorrow, of course, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Holy shit. So if you guys enjoy, leave a like. If not, leave a dislike. It's still retention. I'm not concerned either way. We're gonna be going here. 1080p captions are on. We got volume. I might need to adjust that on my end just to make sure it's okay. My eardrums don't get blown out. But we'll see from how we go. Yeah, let's get it, boys. See where we get up to here. I do have pen and paper in front of me, so I will be writing stuff down as we go as well. So if you see me doing that, don't get upset. How black is the main?
And our enemies many. Yet so long as there remains one of us still fighting, one who still rages in the name of justice and truth, then by the All-Father, the galaxy
A border
shall
prince, voiced by a border prince. Writing down his name. Like that voice right away, not gonna lie.
Looking to support the Amber King channel?
Oh.
Fenris Workshop are offering a fantastic deal on their wargaming products.
Oh shit.
Looking to elevate the story and detail of your miniatures? Check out their amazing dirty down effects paint. Bring the decay and rust of the grim dark future to your miniatures. And for those looking to save money, Fenris Workshop's Order of the Stormcallers loyalty program offers a fantastic range of rewards. Cash back, loot bags,
loot satchel. Whoa! Look at all this potential shit that you get, man. Oh my god, they actually give you quite a lot of value. It looks like loot wagon. Wow. Oh wow.
Sizes, exclusive
sent by mail,
merch,
indicate the value.
and special products, all for buying the equipment you need.
Holy shit.
Use my link in the description to begin your journey. Paints, basing materials, miniatures, and so much more are all
I've never heard of this
available
website.
at
I'm gonna have to actually check out Fenris Workshop. Holy shit.
Thank you so much, Fenris Workshop, for sponsoring this video.
Wow. Seems very worth it, I'm not gonna lie. Wow. Fenris. Alright. This is the home planet of the Space Wolves, right? If I recall.
It matters not how high your walls soar. It matters not how many will answer your call. It matters not how keen your blade glimmers, nor how bright burns your hearth fire. The wolf waits. The wolf waits in darkness for us all. We are the wolf that stalks the cold skies and swallows the star fire.
Damn.
We are the hidden in the darkness when the light has gone. Our light.
Hold on a sec. Let me just pause here real quick. Bit of a quick lore before the video. Morkai is the two-headed Fenrisian wolf of death. His guards are the black-maned wolves. Okay, there. Let me just write that down. So is that a bit of like culture for the space wolves, I guess? Just a little bit of like history for them. I got you. Okay, Morkai. Two-headed. You can definitely see like the Viking like influence right away, I will say. Like it's impossible to like not see that with the space wolves, of course, just by like their physical appearance, but even like culturally right away, just by like you know, the name of their planets, just like seemingly, I'm guessing by their traditions. I'm sure we're going to see here, but I'm assuming it's going to be very much akin to like Viking tradition, which is going to be super interesting to see here. How you doing, Troy? Good to see you here. Gonna skin people soon if Talus doesn't get love. Holy shit. That seems like an apt response, I'm not gonna lie. Very, very apt. Oh my god.
Hidden in the darkness when the light has gone. Our light is within us. We run the ruin of fire in the darkness. Foes burn in our passing.
Hidden in the darkness when the light has gone, with sharp fangs and the fury of the All-Father, Wolf Lord Ragnar Blackmane of the Space Wolves chapter battles
I'm in that
against
kind of
the
mood.
threat that humanity faces.
Spicy, dude.
The
Very
young
spicy.
King,
Holy
the
shit.
Black Wolf, the youngest Wolf Lord in the chapter's history.
Oh,
with
shit.
a name whispered as one of the greatest champions of humanity.
Youngest
Who
wolf
is
lord.
the man, Ragnar? Who is the person behind the mythological status? His story begins in the 40th millennium, in Segmentum Solar, on the world of Fenris. A young boy with thick dark hair and a hardened frame stared up to look at a creature of nightmare, a giant sea serpent, lashed out towards the boy.
This is Beowulf. Right away. I'm not gonna lie, right? Like this is I'm not fucked up here. Let me just adjust my camera that way a little touch, just so it's more center, my bad. That's Beowulf, is it not? This is totally like the story of Beowulf right away. I'm not trying to be that guy. I can totally see where this is going. Okay, that's very cool. Let's see where this goes.
A wooden boat full of his tribe's warriors. Fear gripped all of their hearts. Their hands were trembling as the violent sea storm rattled their vessel. As the grown men around him hesitated, the young boy grabbed a spear and lunged it at the creature, piercing its enormous eye. Its hit was true, but this only seems to have enraged the sea demon. Despite being young, the boy knew to die here would have been a good death. The greatest dream for any amongst the primitive tribes of Fenris.
Also very
Booming
Nordic
laughter
paganism.
came from the prow of
Nordic
the ship.
paganism vibes, I should
The
say.
sorcerer, the giant man with fangs in strange armor who had hired his father's vessel, laughed. As the rain and thunder rang in the boy's ears, the giant man pulled a metallic talisman from his side
What the
and
fuck?
unleashed his magic, exploding the sea demon's head. They had survived. The seas calmed, and they took the sorcerer to his destination. The boy began to ask the sorcerer questions. His curiosity overcame his superstitions and fear. He wondered if the giant was a sky warrior, one who fought in the heavens alongside the All-Father and the legendary Leman Russ.
I see. So on their planet, they still maintain like a very like it seems very much like the planet is like still very much based in like tribalism, like pagan tribalism almost. And obviously that is where their influence is from, but they're calling them like sky warriors still with the All-Father, you know what I mean? Like very, very much like a low state of technology, I want to say. They're on wooden rowboats doing this. I'm assuming the fella that blew up that serpent's head, he's probably got to be a psyker of some degree, and if he's giant, he might be like a librarian or something like that. Let's see. Viking level tech as well. Okay, so like no guns, no nothing like that. Okay, so you're like, you know, longbows, maybe crossbow. I don't even think a crossbow. Probably like bows. You know, melee weapons in general. You know, fucking sailing ships with oars, that type of stuff. Okay, okay. Chaplain, apothecary. Okay, that makes sense. My chapter banner is tattooed on my back. Oh goddamn! Holy shit. That's pretty sweet. I have a tattoo on my back too. It's pretty sizable. Longbow at most for range, oars and sails. Yeah, damn. Rough life, very rough life already. Holy shit.
Heavens alongside the All-Father and the legendary Leman Russ. He asked the giant if they would ever meet again, and the sorcerer told Ragnar he hoped that they never would.
Damn.
Because that would be a day of doom. Fenris, a world of ice, titanic oceans, violent volcanoes, and mountains that touched the heavens.
Damn,
Home
dude.
to grueling winters and summers choked with lava and ash, as the very world itself was a danger to humanity. As if the freezing
place sounds
temperatures
awful.
were not enough, creatures and monsters roamed and dwelled amongst the ice and violent seas. Trolls, serpents, and wolves so large you would be frozen in fear when their predatory gaze fell upon you.
Is this supposed to be, oh shit, what's the, I'm trying to think back my Norse mythology. Oh god. Because there's different realms within Norse mythology. I know a little bit about it. I forget the names and stuff. It's not fresh to me. Shit. Because there's like a land of like the giants, right? Which is like fucking frozen. You know, there's the land of like the dead. Helheim? Yeah, maybe Helheim. Yeah, maybe. Is that what this is supposed to be like a reference to? Like the planet? Because each realm, like in Norse mythology, represented like a different like aspect, you know, in a sense, or a different race. To my knowledge. And then I don't know, there's also like the world tree that like joined them all together. Listen, I'm not trying to, I'm not an expert. I don't want to like misspeak on actual Norse mythology. I'm not an expert. Okay, I'll just say it right now. But I feel like I've heard this, not before, but like I have seen the inspiration for this in some way. I want to say maybe I'm wrong, but let's keep watching. The Viking realms intermingled. Yeah. Fenris is kind of all of them mixed into one world. Okay.
It would be on this frozen hellscape that the boy Ragnar of the Thunderfist tribe would be born. Life for a mortal man and woman on Fenris is a grueling, primitive experience.
Damn.
The violent and turbulent geology of the world meant that solid stone structures were impossible. It was a nomadic life, where the idea of permanence was a luxury. It was sacred. The young child Ragnar lost his mother very young, and so it'd be the boy's father who would be the only parent he ever knew. Ragnar began to train. Life on Fenris was brutal, and only the strongest survived. Hunting and fighting was everyday life, and at night the tribe would gather around their skald, the keeper of the memories. The great sagas would be sung, the stories of the All-Father and his son Leman Russ, songs about the demon Horus and the great warriors of old.
Interesting.
In a life that was fraught with danger and instability, being immortalized in the sun.
Isn't it crazy how like in a tribal nomadic lifestyle, just how like stories get passed down like that? And this is over the span of them. I'm assuming at this point they're talking about like Horus and shit like that. I'm assuming this is in the modern 40k universe. And it's crazy to think like, you know, what, I guess like 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 years IRL, right? Like this is just how people were doing stuff. So it's just crazy to think like over a span of like 10,000 years, you know, what that would potentially like look like. Now, in this case, they can't develop it all. I will say no permanence is fucking awful. The fact that like their civilization can't actually settle the world, it makes me think that like people settled here and then, once the collapse came, right, and once like, you know, communications with like Terra were lost, once warp travel became not a thing, right, the people here lost the technology to actually be able to like support structures and shit here, and they just had to revert to like a completely nomadic lifestyle. The geology on this planet is completely hostile to humans. Like, you know, you would only build on this planet or settle it in the first place if you had a tech level high enough to actually be able to develop it in some sort of way. So it implies that this planet just fucking collapsed into a cesspit. You know, no offense to it, but it's like, holy shit. Like, I don't know if you guys have ever played oh shit, what's the game called? 2 seconds. What's the game called? Star Sector. If you guys have ever played Star Sector, that's like, you know, you come across a planet and it just says like decivilized, and it's just like, oh god. Like, that's what that is, you know?
Was fraught with danger and instability. Being immortalized in the sagas was a dream for everyone, and even some could be worthy to join the Sky
Ragnar
Warriors
got laid before he was
amongst
recruited?
the heavens
What?
by Russ's side, to live forever in the songs
No way.
in the heart of the people. To have achieved a warrior's death was everything. Who are we without our stories?
That's actually kind of a big
Ragnar
deal,
grew over
unironically.
years, witnessing death and battle at a young age. To live long enough to have grey hairs was a rarity in the tribes of Fenris. Ragnar battled, hunted, and sailed the lands near his home, even meeting the strange giant sorcerer named Ranek, an experience he would never forget. To have met one of the legendary Sky Warriors was a miracle in of itself. Ragnar grew from that boy who challenged the sea demon into a man, a warrior of the Thunderfist tribe. It was
Oh,
a
the
time for
Thunderfist.
celebration,
Holy shit.
a moment he shared with his friends who he grew up with, and the woman he had grown to love. But nothing lasts forever, not on
The woman he had
Fenris.
grown to love,
The
damn.
Grim Skulls. The Thunderfist's rival tribe attacked them in the midst of the celebration.
Well, listen, I'm just saying, like, on a world like this, right, where your average age is probably like, your average age expectancy is probably like fucking 30. Like, let's be honest, like, if it's not the monsters on this world killing you, it sounds like it's the environment, or it's just like the fucking air itself, because it's toxic in some places. There's just, you know, there's fucking volcanoes spewing ash into the atmosphere and shit. I feel like living long on this planet is not really a thing. So, like, I don't know. I feel like again, it's just kind of strange though, because like, how old would he be? Like, I'm not trying to be weird, but like, that seems kind of, you know, damn. I guess let's see.
The Thunderfist's rival tribe attacked them in the midst of the celebration. Ragnar had completed the ritual of manhood.
Girl he was
only
meant to
days
marry.
Before.
The ritual of
He looked to
manhood.
The woman he loved, Anna, and he mourned the life they could have had together. And then he headed out for war. The
Damn.
slaughter was fierce. Skulls broke, limbs severed, and roars swelled in the night's air. The people Ragnar had shared his life with, the people who he had played, grown, and listened to the sagas with.
Realistically, he's
dying.
like 12
The
here,
battle
right?
raged
And he's
under
just
the
like a
snow
child
and
soldier, I'm
starlight,
assuming.
Until a strange light shone from the sky.
It's gotta be.
The two sides dispersed, and a giant sorcerer emerged onto the field. Ragnar recognized him immediately.
14? Okay.
The day of doom had come. Ragnar, the Thunderfists, and the Grim Skulls picked up their weapons and launched at each other.
Holy
a
shit.
glorious death awaited.
You are back.
Very
among
weird,
the living
but it is what it is. I
He
can
said
understand.
it-
Again, not trying to justify it, but like, again, like when your age expectancy, you're at like max age expectancy is like 30. Like, listen, that's why like people back in the day, like, you know, in like the dark ages, not the dark ages of fucking Warhammer, but like in like 400 AD during the Black Death, shit like that, that ravaged humanity during the medieval ages, stuff like that. Like, that's why people got like betrothed and then like married at like 16 and shit, because it was like, you know, chances are you're going to die in childbirth, or chances are you're going to catch like fucking the fever and die. Like, unironically, you're gonna cut yourself on a fucking rusty pitchfork and you're gonna keel over and just submit to death. Like, at that point, like, that's just how life was for forever until like literally like the late 1800s, you know. So it's brutal, you know. Like, I'm not trying to justify it, but it's understandable.
You are back among the living, laddie.
He said, It wasn't a question.
Am I? Are you not one of the choosers of the slain?
The old man's booming laughter echoed out over the rubble. Several distant figures turned to look at him as if startled.
Always questions, eh? You haven't changed much, boy.
I am not a boy. I gained the robe of manhood days ago.
Oh my god, there's no way he's bragging about that.
Well, you distinguished yourself on the field of battle.
I got some puss. A mere few
You're
days.
a fighter, laddie. I haven't seen such carnage since the time of Berek, and that was a long time ago.
So you are a chooser then?
Yes, laddie, that I am. But not in the sense you think.
Then in what sense are you one? Surely you either are or you are not.
One day, if you live, you will understand. The universe is not nearly so simple as you believe. You will find this out soon enough.
If I live.
Ragnar looked down in wonder at where the wounds in his chest should have been.
Surely you have already been dead. Is that what you were going to say? Yes, you were. Dead, or the next best thing to it. Your heart had stopped beating and you had lost a lot of blood. Your body took a lot of damage, but not enough. Our healer got to you before brain death could occur.
Brain death?
What ailed you was not beyond the power of our magic to fix.
Ragnar was sure he had muttered another word before he said magic, but he had never heard the word before, and it made no sense. But
I like how they're calling it magic even too. Like, even like the Astartes here are calling it magic. Like, what the fuck? So, like, are they just kind of like propelling like this cycle, you know, in a sense? Like this belief? I mean, it's not like... I guess it, like, to them it is magic, but, like, you know, obviously I feel like if you're an Astartes, like, you kind of know better. Like, you know it's not. So wouldn't you, like, try to, like, promote growth in your population? I don't know. But then you're not getting, like, you know, the lifestyle, the training, the, like, you know, the experience in your Astartes that you otherwise would have been getting, you know? So I don't know. I guess there's, like, pros and cons for, like, keeping your civilization, like, ignorant like that, in a sense, you know? But who knows?
But he had never heard the word before, and it made no sense. But that was only to be expected of wizards. They spoke in riddles and nonsense. Still, his words gave Ragnar hope.
You can bring back the dead. Then my father...
Your father is beyond our aid, laddie.
Ranek
Imagine
said,
you're a Viking and I started
gestures
talking to you
towards
about
the distant
PCs.
fires.
I guess, but my point is like they've had like 10,000 years in theory to like try to like expand the knowledge of their people, right, on their homeworld, right? So it's almost like I can see that like aspect of it almost, but at the same time it's like, damn, dude, I don't know.
Our aid, laddie.
Ranek said. He gestures towards the distant fires.
Why didn't you help him when you helped me? You could have
Wanting
done
to keep
it.
the culture
He
pure, that
had
makes
not
sense.
Proved himself worthy of our aid.
That's kinda what
or
I'm
our
thinking, yeah.
interest. You have.
Also, good to see you here, Fyr.
You have been chosen, laddie.
Chosen for what?
You'll find out soon enough if that is your destiny.
The old man showed his fangs in that disturbing smile.
Now you belong to the wolves. Body and soul, you belong to the wolves.
What the
Ragnar
fuck?
raised himself
We
to
own
his
you.
feet. Unsteady as a newborn kid, he tried to put one foot in front of the other to walk, but he found himself reeling and staggering. Almost at once, he overbalanced, and the ground rose to meet him. He was slammed into the earth with painful force. He did not let it stop him. Pushing against the ground with both hands, he rose to his feet once more. This time he managed a few more steps, and before he could fall, he stopped himself and stood upright. Swaying, he felt nauseous, his stomach churned. He felt dreadful, but at the same time he felt a huge sense of relief. He was not dead. He was among the living. For whatever mysterious reasons they might have, Ranek and his fellows had chosen to spare him. Indeed, it appeared that in some way they had chosen him. Though it was
Russ
not
made a
quite
deal
like
with
any
Biggie
of
that
the
no one
hero
would ever
tales
colonize
he had
Fenris.
heard.
It would remain
Still,
pure,
he
okay.
had been picked out. They were mighty mages indeed. They had healed his wounds. They had brought him back from the dead.
I wonder how
Or
he
had they?
swayed that one,
Was this
damn.
some kind of foul sorcery such as the demons were said to practice? Had they taken his soul and bound it into his corpse using dark wizardry? Would his
Damn.
body soon begin to rot and decompose? He turns to face the wolf priest.
Am I dead?
He asked. It was an insane question. He knew, but Ragnar looked
was an
at him with
insane
what appeared
question.
to be understanding, perhaps even sympathy.
As far as those people down there are concerned, yes, laddie. You are among the slain. You will depart from this place never to return. Your destiny lies elsewhere now, among the endless ice, and perhaps among the stars.
Ragnar thought.
Interesting. So is that how the recruitment process unironically goes? Like they just take like fallen battlefield dead? So it's almost like the Valhalla tradition, right? When you die and you go to Valhalla, you died gloriously in combat. But instead just the Space Wolves kind of come and pluck like the few like, you know, seemingly the best warriors from that battle, and that's just kind of what they do. Is that kind of right? Or how exactly do they do it? I'm curious, you know. Genuinely.
Endless ice, and perhaps among the stars.
Ragnar thought he saw Anna being pushed out onto one of the dragon ships. Suddenly he knew beyond a shadow of a doubt that he had to get to her. He began to move towards the beach, staggering like a drunkard. He half expected Ragnar to try and stop him, but the wolf priest let him go. Ragnar had no idea how long it took him to reach the beach. He knew that when he got there, he was panting as hard as if he had run 20 miles over sand. He saw the Grimskull warriors all turn and look at him. There was wonder on their faces, and horror. They had made the sign of Russ over their breasts, and continued to wade out into the sea and clamber aboard their ships. Ragnar tried to follow them, but the waves beat against him and he fell. The water closed over his head, began to fill his lungs. He rose to his feet and started to splutter. He tried to push on out once more, but a powerful hand closed on his shoulder. He turned around and swiftly lashed out with his fist. Agony shot up his arm, and it felt as
you
if
just
he might
punched
have
metal,
broken
I
his
think, buddy.
fingers.
Ceramite will
Ceramite,
not yield
metal.
to naked flesh, laddie.
Yeah.
Ragnar said,
That was
lifting
kinda-
him as easily as if he were a puppy, despite his struggles.
You'll only break your hands if you keep that up.
Out onto the water, the drums had begun to beat. Oars splashed into the water. The dragon ships began to pull away from the land.
Where are we going?
They are returning to their
Bro broke
homes
his whole
with their
arm,
new
yeah.
chattels, laddie.
I just imagine he like turned around and just threw like a fucking like wild like overhand like fucking overturn into that fucking ceramite plate and just fucking at the elbow just fucking shattered his arm in 3 pieces, bro. Like fuck. Oops. It's made of sodomite, yeah. Wait, is that what the subtitles said? Did the subtitles say that? I didn't catch that. Oops. I didn't actually catch the subtitles saying that this time. I almost want to go back to see that, but I don't know if it's worth it. Those who distinguish themselves in battle, if a wolf priest saw a kid and the kid survived, it saves the wolf priest having to revive him. Okay. Fuck.
They will not live here now. After the battle, they believe this island will be haunted. I imagine that your seeming resurrection will only give credence to that viewpoint.
Damn.
This will be a sacred site before long. Of that, I have no doubt. And then they will forget. Men always forget.
Interesting. Well, especially when you can't write down your fucking history, man. I mean, men don't always forget. I mean, the second you can write, I mean, that kind of becomes less of a problem, right? The problem is I feel like the technology level of this civilization, they probably only can do runes at the most, and again, they can't stay stationary. So why the fuck would you write books when you're so worried on your day-to-day survival, right? Like it's kind of like the hierarchy of needs, right, in a sense. So if you don't have all of your needs met, then you can't kind of progress as a civilization. You can't achieve technologically things that you otherwise could have. You know, and so when you're in a hunter-gatherer lifestyle and you're constant daily goal is just to fucking make it to the end of the day, you know? It's a very brutal way to live.
The battle was over. Ragnar's home, seeded with ash and blood, burned. The life he knew, the life he could have had.
Show me writing save from Viking society? You can't. That's what I'm saying, right? That's what I'm saying. So like if they can't, if the goal here is to keep the civilization pure and not give them a level of technology, they're never going to ascend to actually be able to write. The Vikings barely could write because they were a hunter-gatherer society up until the point where they decided to jump on fucking sailing ships and invade England and invade parts of Spain, France for sure, right? They went fucking basically everywhere. Fucking Canada, they went to Greenland, they went to Newfoundland, we found a settlement there. They went fucking everywhere, and the whole reason for that was because their environment was so fucking hostile that they weren't able to actually like do anything, you know? They weren't able to actually like survive in the grand scheme of things that they saw, right? I mean, obviously people live there nowadays, but the mass like expulsion of people from that area, I think, is due to the fact that, you know, they straight up just, the environment was awful towards them, you know? It's very hard to live there with a primitive level of tech, like straight up. So if you have the means to go out and take other people's land that's arable and easy to conquer, you know, why not? Fuck it.
The life he knew, the life he could have had was gone. He awoke. His mortal injuries healed by the sorcerer Rannek and his entourage. Ragnar had fought like
that's
a
the very
man
reason why
possessed.
Russ wanted
Something
Fenris to stay pure.
and dangerous was buried deep within his soul.
I think it's too like the experience that the people here would have, right? It makes great warriors, makes great Astartes.
The fire of his life's fading light. 20 men.
Like I see why they do it. Don't get me wrong. Absolutely, it's understandable.
Until another youth of a similar age caught his eye. Styrbjorn of the Grimskull's eyes met his. Two hate-filled predatory eyes waiting for a kill. With his axe still wet with the blood of Ragnar's father, Styrbjorn launched himself at the Thunder Fist, each dealing a mortal blow. As the dust settled and the Grimskulls were victorious, Ragnar awoke, resurrected from the glorious death he had earned. You can imagine the despair he must have felt, seeing his home destroyed, the love of his life taken away, and the sight of his fallen
makes
father,
tougher people.
The only parent.
The death world makes scary people in battle. That's very true. I feel like what's the name of that guard regiment of like the commandos? It's on the tip of my tongue. I can't think of it. Shit. That's gonna annoy me. It's gonna bother me. Somebody tell me that, please, because it's gonna fucking bother me a lot. It's like those guys, right? Like they're from a death world, basically a jungle world. They're all like fucking guerrilla commandos on their own, right? And they just, the Kachian. I knew it started with a C. Kachian jungle fighters. That's right. Katachan. That's right. Yeah. Those guys, they're fucking badasses, bro. I actually like, I fuck with that regiment real hard. I'm not gonna lie. They're pretty sick. Like straight up, like the use of like tactics amongst themselves, because a lot of like guard regiments, you know, you just see them deploy mass troops, and that's kind of their whole doctrine. But with them, it's like actually like the fact that they, you know, they're actually like guerrilla fighters, like they're free thinking fighters in their own sense, right? And it just makes them much more deadly than just deploying them in a mass charge formation, you know. Like with Krieg, like they don't give a shit if you die, right? With Katachan, I feel like, you know, it's a much bigger loss to lose just the average soldier than it would be for like to lose an average Kriegsman, as bad as that is to say.
Taken away in the sight of his fallen father, the only parent he had ever known. And then the hate, when Ragnar saw Styrbjorn also healed by Rannek. The Grimskull scum who had killed his father.
That planet has 2G gravity as a norm. Holy shit!
Waits in the darkness for us all.
So that's why everyone there is so bulked. Yeah,
to
damn
end
dude.
The Grimskull there and then, but Rannek stopped him. Just as Ragnar had been chosen, so had Styrbjorn. The Sky Warriors had come. They had the potential to join the Allfather and Russ in the Oververse, the heavens, and fight amongst the stars. The 2 tribal warriors, healed of their wounds, were taken by Ranek, soaring high in the sky in a bird made of metal. An almost dizzying sight compared to the primitive existence Ragnar had known. Was he dead? Was this the reward for the glorious dead promised to those on Fenris? The thought raced through Ragnar's mind, the fascination and confusion overwhelming his grief. Arriving on the only stable
when you die, you just
continent
become
on
demon
Fenris,
food, unfortunately.
They landed in the village of Rusvik. The solid structures seeming
Who's
like
gonna break
a
it to him?
luxury. Ragnar, Styrbjorn, and dozens of others were
Hey there's
assembled in
Zafeli.
the
How are you
freezing
doing?
snow. A giant
Zafeli? Hopefully I
man
pronounced that right.
strode forward, just as tall as Ranek. Hakon was his name, and a thunderous voice shook Ragnar to his core. All assembled had been chosen. They had all shown their strength, but this meant nothing. The worst was yet to come. For those who are strong enough, they will be worthy to join Hakon's brotherhood. They could join the wolves and fight the enemies of the Allfather in the stars. Ragnar, strong enough to kill 12 men, a man who had the spirit to challenge the sea demon, would face his greatest challenge.
Damn.
Their training begun. Grueling physical workouts, dangerous mountain treks, survival skills and hand-to-hand combat was drilled into Ragnar and the other aspirants. Their fingers bled, their bodies ached, their minds were challenged by the constant need of willpower and determination. Ragnar's excitement began to grow. The adventure that lay ahead, the chance to join the great warriors of the Allfather, to cement his name in history, was a dream pumped into every son of Fenris since birth.
I love the optimism from him there, but I feel like unfortunately it's gonna be the case of like, dude, I don't want to be that guy. Are we gonna like? And I know they're vastly different characters and like vastly different cultures and all that. Definitely vastly different cultures, but I feel like it might be the case of like with Dante, where by the end of it, he's just like, fuck, I just want to like actually die. You know what I mean? like I don't, you know, I'm not trying to like foreshadow or like, you know, like me, I don't know, right? I have no idea. Just like a feeling I have, like this character, he's going to go through like so much potentially over the next like bit here. And, you know, it might get bad, you know, if in true Warhammer fashion. Maybe not. I hope not. You know, I genuinely hope not. I hope everything goes well for him. I hope he gets out there and he fucking slays the enemies of the Imperium, you know. But who knows, right? Let's see.
History was a dream pumped into every son of Fenris since birth. He could be part of the sagas, his name sung for millennia. But something else gnawed at the back of the young warrior's mind. Hate. Styrbjorn.
He's pretty chill by comparison. Okay, that's good.
Group.
That's good.
Ragnar had begun to make friends with the others.
He seems a lot more
Kjell,
lighthearted about shit, I'll be honest.
Nils and Sven. Other aspirants taken from across the world. But that cold, uncompromising desire to end the Grimskull plagued his thoughts. Perhaps a time would come soon. Even being forced into life and death situations with Styrbjorn, no bond had been created between them. Each of them burned with the same hatred they saw on the day Ragnar's former life had been destroyed. This new existence had made it seem that Ragnar's previous life, his love, his father, his village, it all seemed to fall further and further away from him. But perhaps that hate for Styrbjorn kept him tied to it. To them, and losing that inner fire meant losing them too. Many aspirants died over the coming weeks, even one from Ragnar's own group, bitten in half by a monstrous troll.
Fuck.
A sense of guilt washed over him. He had been...
So when they say troll, is it like an actual like Nordic like troll, or is this some like fucked up like warp beast riddled, like, you know, like chaos troll, you know what I'm saying? Like what exactly are we dealing with here? Or is this just like a beast local to the planet, you know, with no fucked up influence whatsoever, you know? Like genuinely I'm kind of curious. I wonder if there's any like illustration for that or something like that. Nordic style troll? Okay, I got you.
Monstrous troll. A sense of guilt washed over him. He had been chosen as the leader, and it was his responsibility to protect the group.
Some like Nurgle-ridden like chaos troll would be terrifying, bro.
It was never easy to lose a brother, and if Ragnar was to survive this path, he would lose many more. The thought of losing his friend Kjell and the others filled him with dread. It was weeks of near-death experiences, grueling physical trials, but those aspirants who had survived emerged hardened, refined, the apex of mortal men. They were ready. Their bodies had been tested, but what about their heart, their soul? As Hakon congratulated the passing aspirants, he told Ragnar and the others that everything up to now had been easy. Now would be the true test, the last hurdle before brotherhood, and the chance to join Russ's chosen. Ragnar, Styrbjorn, Lars, Nils and Sven headed towards the Fang, the heart and home of the Space Wolves chapter. It was unlike anything
I don't know if this is like an actual illustration. If it is, someone let me know. But this actually looks really, really cool. It is an interesting aspect though to like join them. You have to prove yourself in combat mortally, potentially be mortally like wounded, or ideally survive, right? But if you are mortally wounded, they'll bring you back potentially. And then you're taken to become an aspirant, and then you're going through your like your initiate trials, right? I think that is or your aspirant trials there. I think that's like it's almost like a double like fuck you almost, you know what I'm saying? Like you're supposed to die and like go to like your afterlife, right, so to speak, even though obviously that's not what's going to happen. But kind of interesting that that's how they do it, you know. I think it really goes to show like the Space Wolves don't really fuck around. Like they're definitely like really, really good combatants by all accounts. Like I don't know. Usually when the Space Wolves are on the field, like ass is being kicked in some degree, I will say. From what I've seen. Even the small wood and stone village of Rusvik was incredible to him, but a fortress the size of a mountain, carved with the intricate designs, stones shaped from the time of Russ. It was more than most on Fenris could ever dream of, and to the aspirants they sent words of praise to the All-Father. Perhaps they really were in the Oververse, in heaven, but there was little time to appreciate the wonders of the place. Ranek, the giant who Ragnar had met as a boy and who had brought him back to the land of the living, was waiting for them. Down the aspirants descended, deep into the fortress, to the gates of Morkai. Behold the gate of Morkai. Through it lies the path to death or glory. Beyond this there is no return, save as one worthy to belong to the wolves in body and soul. Ragnar could feel power thrum from the runes of the archway. Nervous, but determined, Ragnar strode forward, each step becoming heavier until all space and time seemed to shift around him. Four voices laughed around him. As he begun to see visions, he did not know who or what these creatures were. Ragnar was shown great battles, himself suited in grey armor, victorious. The twisted, seductive whispers offered him anything he desired. Glory for the barbarian, concubines, power, all gifts the proud Thunderfist spurned. But then the most tempting of all was offered up to him. Styrbjorn, vengeance. The voices screamed for him to slay the grim skull, avenge his people. I was gonna say, like, Khorne would be like, I feel like it would definitely be Khorne is like, he'd probably have such a massive heart on for the Space Wolves in general. He's probably like, man, that's who I want, you know, like Blood Angels and the Space Wolves. I feel like definitely Khorne, that would be like Khorne's poster boys, 100%.
Screamed for him to slay the grim skull, avenge his people, let the hate flow.
If he got them, of course. He didn't, but if he got them.
The wolf waits in the darkness for us all. But worst of all, he wanted it. Ragnar had been dreaming day and night for weeks about ending the scum. His vision blurred. The blade now placed in his hands trembled. His most inner self was being ripped open. At the edge of claiming his vengeance, he screamed in rage. He would not be coerced. He would not be manipulated. The proud scion of the Thunder Fist would not fall down this path.
Good.
I am Ragnar, and I defy you. He awoke. Some of the other aspirants lay near him, dead. Ranek told him that no one had ever come closer to failing than him.
Really?
Ragnar was strong, capable and honorable, but his hate for Styrbjorn had almost killed him.
Wow.
It was a simplistic, tribal hate, a remnant of mortal rivalry.
A simplistic
and if
tribal
Ragnar
hate.
wanted to survive, he had to let it go.
I think that's hilarious. The whole like case of like no one got closer to failing than you and survived, and why you basically almost failed was because of just the most like tribalistic like fuck you like that could have been. You know what I mean? Like yeah, like you killed my father. I mean that's not it's a good reason. Don't get me wrong. It's absolutely a good reason, but also it's like the case of like it's the most like basic reason, like everything else was offered up and it was just the case of like I just want to kill the guy that killed my father. You know what I mean? Makes sense, but damn, yeah, wow.
And if Ragnar wanted to survive, he had to let it go. The hardest thing in this world is to let go of hate, a struggle that most of us will never conquer. Ragnar, Styrbjorn, Kjell,
These are the gates of hell, damn.
Nils and Sven had survived. Their souls were worthy, and now came the final trial.
Or like your tribe wiped out and enslaved my tribe.
Wolf.
Fair enough.
It
yeah.
was the mark of Russ. They were to drink from its contents and to bind the power of Russ to themselves. They would become faster, stronger, and sturdier than any mortal man if they lived. But if evil lay in their heart, they wouldn't join the Chosen. They would become monsters, Wolfen, creatures of nightmare who haunted the skald songs of Ragnar's youth. One by one, the surviving aspirants, now only a handful, drank. Ragnar dreaded it. Would his hate for Styrbjorn kill him now? He drank, feeling nothing. Then hours later it begun. The fever, the sickness, the feral rage. His body was screaming. Ragnar could feel himself turning. He was becoming something more than human. His muscles grew, his canines lengthened. His senses were sharpened to a level that would frighten us. His mind screamed, "Remember who you are, Ragnar. Control yourself." Something within had been awoken. A wolf, ready to lash out, ready to tear any who stood in front of him. After days, the aspirants began to adapt. Some had died. Ragnar looked over, and his friend Kjell looked haunted. He could see that the others were a mix of barely controlled feral instincts. The genetics of Russ, the Canis helix, had been bound to them. For those who had survived, the last trial began. Thrown into the freezing wastes outside the Fang, the aspirants were ordered to journey back. They were to battle the cold, the monsters, and the wolf inside. Ragnar alone began his great journey, trudging through the snow, hunting and gathering just like his time at Rusvik, even coming face to face with an injured great Fenrisian wolf.
Oh,
Two predators meeting eye to eye. With his newfound strength, Ragnar slew the great beast, skinning its black mane to use for warmth.
Oh wow, there it comes from. It's Blackmane to use for warmth. He just they said it, guys. They name dropped him. Wow, that's where he gets it from. No, but very crazy. Like it's almost like a double trial. So like the gates of hell, like is that all aspirants have to essentially approach that gate of hell? And then so they go through that, and then they drink, right? And then once they drink, then they undergo the change. They basically go like wolf mode, right? They have to control themselves, and if they don't, they basically just become a feral human in a sense, right? They lose themselves to that base instinct, and then they have to go out in the wilderness and make their way back. It seems like there's a lot of steps to becoming a space wolf. I know other legions definitely have a lot of complex trials to them as well, but this one seems particularly hard. Almost, it seems like you have to go through potentially a lot to make it here as a space wolf. Like, goddamn.
Skinning its black mane to use for warmth. There was a certain peace to this existence. For a long time, Ragnar had not been alone. He hadn't thought about home, the life he had. He did not have to return. He could live on these slopes forever, a free man. But something called to him. This desire was not for glory, but for brotherhood. The chance to be a part of something bigger than himself. The last Thunderfist found his resolve and headed towards his destiny. But something was wrong. After a few hours, Ragnar, with his new senses, noticed he was being watched. He was being hunted.
By what now? Space wolves, okay. Their trial then is to simply get back to the Fang. I gotcha.
And a night of dark trees. But he who is not afraid of my darkness will find banks full of roses under my
This was a German guy, right?
Whoever fights monsters
Philosopher,
should
I think.
see to it that in the process he does not become a monster. And if you gaze long enough into an abyss, the abyss will gaze back into you.
Damn.
Piercing yellow eyes peered through the blizzard. It was the abyss staring back. The feral beast that lurked inside Ragnar, fighting for control. A wolfen. Whoever fights monsters should see to it that in the process he does not become a monster. This was the final test, to bind the ferocity of the Calyx Helix and control the inner beast. But what stood before Ragnar was one who had lost that battle. The nightmarish monster of the Skald's Tales. The beast lunged forward, moving faster than any mortal man. But Ragnar was ready, with his improved senses and...
So this is essentially like an aspirant that has failed this trial and is like gone full wolf mode out in the wilds here and is attacking him, I'm pretty sure. That's kind of fucked up. Damn, dude. Holy shit. I couldn't imagine. Like, it's straight up like some Krampus, like, beast thing here. Like, that would be pretty terrifying, man.
Mortal man. But Ragnar was ready. With his improved senses and reflexes, he plunged his makeshift spear deep into the beast's chest. Slammed backwards, the monster met Ragnar's eyes. He saw a sadness within that feral gaze, and the beast
failed the trial at some point in the past,
word.
or even the current trial.
Ragnar.
True.
As the corpse slumped to the ground, he looked closer, and he howled with rage and grief.
Oh, was it someone he knew?
Kjell, his only friend left in the universe.
That sucks.
To see what had become of someone he cared about, and then having to take their life, would be a pain that would haunt him forever.
I'm assuming they're not allowed to...
Had been
Just to pause, I'm assuming they're not allowed to, like, cooperate with each other in these trials at all. I guess that would kind of, like, defeat the purpose, almost. That sucks, man. Yeah, that really sucks, damn. Nothing you can do, right? You just didn't make it, you know? Damn.
Pain that would haunt him forever. So much had been sacrificed. Family, friends, his body and mind. But Ragnar had to finish it. It was his indomitable will that had brought him this far. And it was why he was worthy, and he would see it to the end. Ragnar trudged again through the freezing blizzard, all the way to the steps of the Fang. A muscular silhouette with a black mane of fur on his shoulders. He made it. Ragnar awoke from the cold steel table. He had been cut open. New organs were placed inside.
Cal was full wolfing at that point, no coming back. Yeah.
Gene seed crafted from the genetics.
I'm assuming, like, that's, like, yeah, just kind of part of it. Like, if you lose yourself completely to that, it's like, It's like in Skyrim when you turn into a werewolf, but you can't fucking turn back. That's basically what it is. You never go back to your human form. So you're always just like part of the wolf. Now you might be like a sentient werewolf in Skyrim. In this case, you're not. You're just a fucking complete like ravenous monster that like, you know, wants blood and it's going to get it, right? I don't know. I know in that previous picture there, it kind of like showed somebody that appeared wolfen with like actual physical wolves beside them and shit like that. Do they have like an animal allegiance, I guess? Like, are they able to like communicate with like wolves and shit like on that level? It's kind of interesting. I guess we'll find out, but let's keep going.
The pain was unbearable. Gene seed crafted from the genetics of Russ were joined to him. In a way, he was part god. The wonder and excitement of being connected to the All-Father must have been overwhelming. Fighting through the sensations of pain, fresh off the cold surgery
Space wolves can still turn wolfen. So this Ragnar, is a thing they might always potentially have to face.
Lars,
I see.
Nils and Sven had the crown of knowledge placed upon their heads, and their lives would change forever. Information flooded into his brain. They were the Space Wolves, the defenders of humanity.
There are no wolves on
serving
Fenris?
in the Imperium of Man, the Emperor of mankind. The All-Father, crippled upon his golden throne on Terra, ruled over 1 million worlds.
That seems like fake news, but maybe not.
Russ, the man. He learned how to speak Imperial Gothic, how their technology worked. He learned the truth about the demon Horus and the great heresy, the 4 chaos gods and their vile names, the ones who had tempted him at the gate of Morkai. He learned more about his own transformation, how his body and mind had been fundamentally changed. His senses were heightened, his strength was incredible, his thoughts became focused. The mortal man, the primitive tribal warrior Ragnar,
that looks
dead.
Pretty cool.
Who he was now was Ragnar the Space Wolf. Only 5 had made it.
I'm not Ragnar anymore. Now I'm Ragnar the Space Wolf. No, I'm joking. I will say though, this illustration looks badass though of him. I'm assuming this is him. Frostfang, is that the name of like, he's got like an artifact blade? Is this actually like, if this is him, if this is his blade, this looks fucking sick, I will say. Like the gold on like gray here with the Space Wolves, I guess. That looks pretty sick. I mean, I don't think this is him looking at it. He's got a, this isn't a black mane, that's a white mane. Wait a second. No, I got you.
Unfortunately for Ragnar, the scum Styrbjorn had survived. The hate was still there.
Styrbjorn.
The snarling wolf inside his soul desired to rip him apart. It would be something Ragnar had to learn to control for the battles to come. Ragnar
isn't his sword until
his
much later, gotcha.
And tested his spirit, but now was the time to put it to use.
But he had a white mane.
The newly designated Blood Claws began their training. The sorcery in Ragnar's primitive youth had become cold, hard science. The bolt gun and grenades were his tool now. The Bloodcore pack trained for days on end. Their new physiology giving them astounding endurance. Environments Ragnar had never seen or even dreamt of became grueling exercise grounds. With a gene seed of Russ within them, the new Space Wolves began to exhibit more changes. Their sense of smell became so keen, they could sense each other's emotions. A level of unspoken understanding began to spread throughout the group. There could be no lies between brothers now. All were connected like a pack. Something Ragnar found comfort in. That desire for brotherhood that had drawn him to join their ranks.
What a crazy like combination here from like the Space Wolves, you know, like just the dual melee weapons, but like chainsword and just straight up like, I'm guessing this is like a power axe. I've heard of like power swords and like hammers and shit. I've not heard of like a power axe, but this shit looks pretty mean, I'm not gonna lie. Is this like a unique to like the Space Wolves, this sort of like axe style weaponry? I don't know if I've like seen anyone else utilize it, you know? And obviously power fists and shit like that, I'm assuming they utilize that like all the time. That guy's got 2 on, that looks pretty badass. I'm assuming they're very, very much melee based. I see a rifle here, but I'm assuming they like their melee combat a lot more than other Astartes, let's say.
perhaps also alleviated the grief he had felt over the past months. But their transformation into Hastatis would not
Power
be
add
enjoyed
close
for
combat
long.
weapon, axes are
Ragnar's
common,
pack,
okay.
Styrbjorn, Lars, Nils and Sven were sent to investigate a missing pack of Bloodclaws on Fenris. Travelling deep into a dark and damp
Power
cave
knife,
system,
power
they
halberd,
were
power mace,
horrified to
okay.
discover a shrine of
Okay.
chaos. It was a trap.
Dante
Booming
has a unique
laughter
power axe? Okay.
emerged from the dark as Maddox, a thousand-sun sorcerer, had
I guess
new
that is an
toys
axe,
to
yeah.
play.
Dante's kind of, yeah, I think Dante's kind of confuses me though, because it is an axe, but it also kind of looks like a hammer, right? Is that correct? Is that the one I'm thinking of, if I recall? There's one we looked at, and it's like, it has like the axe head, but it also kind of has like a hammer head, and I think I just like, I don't know, I guess I just like in my mind I considered it a hammer, but it is technically an axe. I think yeah, that makes sense.
Maddox, a thousand-sun sorcerer, had new toys to play with. He was tainted. The smell and taste in the air disgusted Ragnar. This was the ancient enemy, chaos. It was a slaughter.
I might be thinking of
Space
something
bodies
else.
began to fall like flies, with only Ragnar,
Axe
Styrbjorn,
Mortalis.
Sven, and 2 others escaping.
Someone's got a
Fighting
picture of
their
that.
way
Throw that in the
out, they
Discord.
were almost overwhelmed. Ragnar's great journey would end after he had just begun. As Ragnar saw death approach, it would be Styrbjorn who saved him. Feelings of confusion washed over him, as moments later the Grimskull suffered a crippling blow. He could let him die. Finally the scum would be gone. The thought floated in Ragnar's head. But honor won out. Ragnar sent Sven and the others ahead. He would wait with Styrbjorn for reinforcements. Ragnar swallowed his hate and pushed it down. Brotherhood came first. As the 2 limped to the surface, the laughter rose again. The smell of taint pierced their souls. Maddox. There'll be no more running now. A fierce duel broke out. Ragnar was outmatched, barely holding on. But with the intervention of the wounded Styrbjorn, Ragnar rammed his chainsword into the sorcerer's faceplate, howling in triumph. They had survived and achieved a feat remarkable for a Bloodclaw, but the time to rest would not be long. The next battle's foundations had been set as the Imperial Inquisition arrived.
We're gonna fight the Inquisition now. Damn, dude.
And how long precisely
Ragnar's
will
claw.
that be?
Kara Isan glared at him with cat-like green eyes. She was almost as tall
Kara
as he
Isan?
was. Brown
What?
skin with a pert nose and wide lips.
That would be very fucking, like, uncomfortable to me, I feel like. This, because he's got to be pretty goddamn tall, right? Being, like, an Astartes or in the transformation process, at least at this point. And this Inquisitor woman is almost as tall as him. What the fuck? Like, that's like some fucking, like, that's some scary shit, you know what I mean? Like, that's like some, I don't know. I don't even know what to call that, man.
As he was. Brown skin with a pert nose.
Story's quite a few
and
years
wide
after
lips.
Maddox was killed. I
Her
gotcha,
hair was
okay.
lustrous black. She was the most exotic woman he had ever seen, but right at this moment there was nothing remotely attractive about her.
I can see why you are an Inquisitor.
Ragnar replied.
And once again, you are avoiding giving me an answer.
The answer is plain, lady. I don't know. I am not an archivist.
I do not know.
I am only here to be your guide.
I don't know.
And to be our watchdog.
Ragnar looked at her, startled that she would suggest such a thing.
Damn.
In that tone of voice, it was close to being an insult.
Those are words I would call out for
If I were a man,
Ragnar almost smiled. That was exactly what he was going to say. The women folk of the islands did not fight, and he had no idea how to deal with a woman who behaved as if she were the equal of any warrior. Instead
Interesting.
of speaking, he merely grunted assent.
I would not let that stop you.
She said,
I have been trained to fight. All of my calling are.
I am sure, but it would be a most terrible breach of hospitality. We do not slay our guests.
You are very certain you could slay me.
Yes, I am a space marine.
Another simple statement of fact. He was one of the mightiest warriors humanity could produce, enhanced in 100 different ways, taught to kill in every way, bloodied in combat against the vile forces of chaos.
Now, I don't know, like the fact that like she rivals his height and like she's clearly on some shit here, right? Like this is like some like, this isn't just like a basic human woman, surely. Like she's got to be like roided up in some degree or something, right? Like I don't know. I mean, she might just be like talking at her ass here, just like commanding authority, like as Inquisitors, I'm sure, like do and have to do, right? And like that's purely possible. But maybe she's like on some shit and she could actually just fucking take him. I don't know. She isn't as tall as him. Not as tall, but the X script there said almost as tall, which for like a quote unquote human female being almost as tall as a male like obviously a male, but as an Astartes, that's still disconcerting. Like what do you take almost as tall as? Like I take that like maybe like 6 inches in this case, like maybe 6 inches difference potentially. Like I don't exactly know, but almost as tall gives me like the feeling like holy shit, like pretty up there, you know what I'm saying? She is easily a foot shorter. I mean, easily a foot shorter is still like, that's still bigger than like most like regular human males, right? Like still at that point, I feel like, which is still like, what the fuck, you know? You just don't see that.
Every way.
Start sweating, intensifies, oh my god.
Forces of chaos. There was no way any mortal could stand in combat against him. She smiled at him, showing small, perfect teeth. It was a cold smile, with nothing friendly in it. She moved her hand. Ragnar sensed a gathering of energies, but was unsure of what was happening. Then he tried to move, and his limbs would not respond.
Wow.
A psyker, he realized.
Interesting.
She was a psyker, one of those witches
psycho?
gifted with
Damn.
extraordinary mental powers.
Yeah, she's
one
fucking
of
nuts,
which was
bro.
now quite obviously the ability to paralyze any target she wished.
Yeah, so
Ragnar
she's OP.
suddenly felt very foolish.
She's very fucking
very
OP.
Angry.
Yeah.
He exerted his strength, willing his limbs to respond. Her arrogant smile grew wider and colder as she watched him struggle. This just served to make him angrier still. Somewhere, in the dim depths of his mind, the beast that had been a part of him since he became a space wolf began to snarl with frustrated rage. It did not like being caged, even if the cage was his own body. Perhaps this was a threat he had sensed when the strangers first appeared. Psykers were notoriously prone to possession by demons of chaos.
I just gotta be honest though, like straight up, like sometimes you gotta humble a motherfucker, like, you know, because like he's sitting here like looking at her as like a human, like, oh, I would never fucking slay a woman, you know, where I'm from, you know, women are, you know, they don't fight, like, come on, I just fucking, you know, I would never, you know, you know, taint the hospitality of my legion with or of my chapter with your blood, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's no need for that. And like, you know, he's just acting kind of like arrogant, like acting like she's not even a challenge or anything like that. So like, I don't know. I feel like, especially like her being an Inquisitor, like she's got to maintain some sort of status here, right? Like you can't just be like, you know, like think that these like the Astartes is going to have the better of you. You know what I'm saying? You got to command respect and authority amongst them too. So I can kind of see where, you know, yeah. Let's see where this goes. Maybe this is bad. Maybe she's corrupt. Who knows?
By demons of chaos. Perhaps even one of them had wormed its way into the very heart of the Fang.
Space Wolf, I could kill you now, and there is nothing you could do about it.
She's trainee level? Wow.
Ragnar could almost smell the woman gloating.
That's fucked.
He was livid. He could not sense any other alteration in her scent. She did not appear to be tainted by chaos. Perhaps, after all, she was simply doing all this to prove a point.
To humble him,
Beads
yeah.
of sweat stood out on his brow as he forced his numb limbs to move. Time seemed to slow to a glacial pace as he urged his body to reject her hold on him. One of his fingers quivered slightly, and a look of utter shock appeared on her face.
Oh,
as
really?
if she had never seen anyone break her hold before. No matter how slightly, he smelled her sudden loss of confidence. A faint flicker in the power as that affected her control. Suddenly, somehow he could move. It was like being encased in molasses, but at least his limbs were his own once more. He seemed to be moving with incredible slowness, but at least he was moving.
I see.
She let out a faint shriek. His hand was around her throat. Almost before he had thought of it, with his superhuman strength, all he had to do was close his fingers, and her windpipe would be crushed.
And now I could kill you,
He hissed.
and there is nothing you could do about it.
He opened his hand and stepped back.
But that would be neither honorable nor hospitable.
They stood a moment, glaring at each other, both of them breathing hard. He realized that the use of her powers must have been as draining to her as hours of heavy exercise was to him. He himself was exhausted from resisting them, as it had not been after 200 miles of forced march.
Fuck.
You are very strong-willed.
She said
I like that in a
eventually,
man.
and he was not sure whether it was admiration, fear, or dislike he smelled. Perhaps some combination of them all.
I feel like, they're definitely going to hit it off here, a space wolf. And, I'm just saying, like, she, she was trying to put him in his place, but, she kind of got put in her place. Hand around the throat, you know what I'm saying? Like equivalent force, equivalent power. I'm not trying to be that guy, but that was probably like that probably, as scary as that was for her, I'm not gonna lie, she's a psycho, as it were. She's probably totally into that shit. Let's be completely real here.
Or dislike he smelled. Perhaps some combination.
Look at her, for fuck's sake, like.
Apparently.
He said.
And there is something else within you. I sensed it as I wove the web.
Is that what you call it?
I saw something like a wolf. Large, dark.
Large and dark.
It was something woke.
Large, dark, and fierce. Oh my.
He said, not sure whether he should be discussing this
Continue.
with anyone from outside the Space Wolves.
A wolf spirit.
No. It's part of your own spirit. Something that separates you from normal people.
It was bound to me.
I suppose that is one way of looking at it, albeit a primitive way.
Now you are being insulting again.
She smiled, and this time there was some warmth in the smile.
Talisman. That's what she said? Yeah, bro. Like, literally, that is what she said. Like, quite literally. Something large, dark, and fierce growing within you.
Dark and fierce.
Like what? Whoa.
A snarling wolf within the soul.
Excuse me? How do I
Ragnar.
respond to that?
But had this been bound to him, or simply awakened further by his transformation? Perhaps the primitive Ragnar, the Thunder Fist, who had challenged the sea demon, who had slain a dozen men in his burning home, had always had the wolf spirit. It had brought him this far, and had been his greatest weapon. But with the genes eater of Russ, his ferocity was elevated to a new height, something he had to keep in check with his rational human nature.
Right.
Barely a Bloodclaw initiate, Ragnar, Styrbjorn, Lars, Nils,
So he's
and
still very
Sven
much an
had seen
initiate
their
at this
first
point,
conflict.
as well.
And after barely a few weeks of rest, a new trouble had arisen. The Inquisition, that unaccountable, secretive organization who leaves only disaster and ruin in their wake, arrived on Fenris. They had come for the Space Wolves.
Kind of funny that they're both like initiates in their own given order at this point. They met.
Eldari amulet in order to save the dying Imperial planet Arios, currently racked by a disgusting plague. Tasked to assist the pair of Inquisitors Ivan Sternberg and Kara Isan, it was Ragnar who, upon their arrival, felt a sickly, unnerving feeling. He could tell by the sense of his brothers that he was alone in this feeling as paranoia gripped him. He did not trust these strangers. It had only been a short time since Ragnar had the knowledge forced into his brain about the wider Imperium.
He said he didn't trust these strangers. Just a quick question in general. How much trusting does do the Space Wolves, I guess, have in general? Are they a trusting legion, i.e. chapter? I'm assuming now chapters obviously kind of operate maybe a little bit differently in the modern 40k context, right? But are they like a more like kind legion? I never really got that sense, you know, from what I know of them, they're usually like turning up and like burning burning places, you know what I'm saying? Like they don't really seem to cooperate the best, I guess, with certain other legions, so, or their cousins, I guess you could say. So I'm just curious, like how well do they work with others within the Imperium, if not other Astartes, like other organizations, i.e. like the Inquisition, stuff like that. Do they work with them well or not, would you guys say? The lead Inquisitor Sternberg once saved Logan Grimnar, the chapter master. Chapter master's life. This simply is repaying a debt. Okay. To explain your wolf spirit, how much of your anger is you? Is it a separate entity within you? I see. And so if it is like enough of your spirit, let's say, it can take over your body and like possess you in that way. Is that kind of a way to like think about it? The wolves have gone to war with the Inquisition before, okay? Fuck, okay, I guess that pretty much sums it up. Fair enough.
I had the knowledge forced into his brain.
So not well, I'm assuming.
Imperium. 1 million different worlds, with people who had cultures just as concrete as the one he grew up in on Fenris. It would be his mentor, the wolf priest Ranek, the one who had chosen him to be elevated, who shared Ragnar's distrust in these outsiders. And they've
even gone to war with the Grey Knights.
Task of watching over
Seriously?
Them. It was during their...
I not to pause again so quickly here. I guess that would kind of make sense, so going to war with the Grey Knights, because the Grey Knights would probably see like their wolf spirit as like potential possession, I guess, in a sense, right? So would the Inquisition, I guess, maybe, right? Maybe. Yeah, I could see why like different organizations within the Imperium might be on their ass about that shit, you know? Like might actually genuinely be a little bit perturbed that happens within their legion. Damn. That would make sense to me, at least. I'm assuming that's what it'd be over. If not, somebody let me know. When you lose that last hold on controlling your anger is when you become wolf, and I see. Grey Knights and the Inquisition at the same time. It was the wolves and Grey Knights who pushed for peace. I see. Yeah, well, I assume the Grey Knights probably wouldn't really necessarily want to slaughter the wolves entirely. Like, that doesn't really make sense. The Inquisition would probably be all for it. They don't give a shit. But, like, the Grey Knights are still, you know, they're very, you know, much overpowered Astartes, but they are still Astartes in a sense, right? Even though they're up there by a lot, you know. They don't want them dead. I could understand that.
Who shared Ragnar's distrust in these outsiders and assigned the young Bloodclaw the task of watching over them. It was
still a
during
cousin
their stay at the
legion
fair
that you don't want
that
gone.
The Inquisitor Kara-e-san began to interrogate and prod the young space wolf, clearly unimpressed with the savage she saw before her. The Space Wolves were known for being a hearty bunch, boisterous men who reveled in feasting, drinking and fighting.
They had a little disagreement about how to deal with civilians.
The attitude of the outsider before him. She in turn was caught off by
side viewed which
wit and
led to all out war. Damn.
War within words.
If it's in this video, don't spoil it. But if not, then I would kind of be interested in seeing like what that's over, you know, because holy shit, that sounds interesting.
Matching wit and understanding of the hidden.
Well, civilians obviously, but like which side viewed which way, you know what I mean?
Surprising monstrous will he had hidden inside. Ragnar, Styrbjorn, Lars, Nils and Sven prepared themselves. The mission to reforge the Talisman of Lycos was critical to the security of the Imperium.
War happens before Ragnar is in Astartes? Okay, yeah, then let me know if it's not in the video. Yeah, I'd love to know.
Under the command of Sergeant Hakon, their mentor from their time at Rusvik, the young Bloodclaws left their home behind. Ragnar, feeling that melancholy we all feel when we leave the place we grew up, but with his pack by his side, Ragnar, his mentor, and his budding friendship with Sven, Ragnar was not.
It was the first war of Armageddon.
Despite the presence of the grim
seriously?
Styrbjorn.
Is that that's when this battle between the Inquisition and the Grey Knights took place?
But he found himself not actively wishing for his death. The journey had begun, and Ragnar's first experience of warp travel was not a pleasant one. The way it churned and seemed to be rejected by every fibre of his being. Arriving on the planet Guld in search of a piece of the talisman, Ragnar and the pack descended onto the world infested by orcs.
Oh, great.
Face to face with the Xenos for the first time, it disgusted him. He had grown up with the large and dangerous monsters of Fenris, but something deep and visceral within rejected these disgusting creatures. The fighting throughout Gold
easy to
was
see
fierce,
why. Orcs are pretty
blades
disgusting.
were thick with alien blood. Infiltrating their way into the orc-infested capital, they found what they were looking for. The talisman hung around an orc war boss's neck.
When demons and Angron invaded Armageddon, the Grey Knights wanted to kill the civilians and guard that survived, and the Space Wolves wouldn't let them. I see. God damn. So the Space Wolves are actually trying to save civilians. Interesting. So they do seem to have like a good heart, like a soft spot, if you will, for civilians in a way. Like they're not out there just like openly not caring about like the death of civilians and shit. Like, because there's plenty of legions, even loyalists, I feel like that, you know, view civilian casualties as more of a necessity than anything else and don't really care if they're avoidable or not. But very interesting that the Space Wolves would be willing to put their neck out in that way. Inquisition actually laid siege to Fenris for this. Oh, really? Damn. Shit. So I'm guessing they laid siege. Was it more like, did they land ground forces, or was it more just like a you know, like a blockade of the planet? You know what I'm saying? They're more human than most chapters. Nice. Okay. Just came in from helping my dad offload a truck of firewood. Got hit by rain in the end. I'm a shower, then join y'all. Hey, Hobbit, how you doing? Yeah, good to see you. Yeah. We actually got quite a bit of rain here the last few days. It's actually clear now, though. Been pretty nice. So that's been all good there. Yeah. Good to see you, though, Hobbit. No troops on the ground. Okay.
Blood. Infiltrating their way into the orc-infested capital, they found what they were looking for. The talisman hung around an orc war boss's neck. The energies of the talisman had seeped into the foul Xenos' soul, increasing the orc's power and aura to an unnatural level. The Space Wolf pack and the Inquisitors, under Hakon's leadership, prepared to take their prize, using the psychic gifts of Kara's son to infiltrate themselves into the war boss's camp. Upon finally reaching their target, the wolves attacked, slaughtering
the Inquisition
the war
came
boss's
with them
guards. But they were utterly outmatched by the talisman-infused war boss. Ragnar was barely holding his own, and was saved from certain death by the desperate intervention of Lars. But this came at a cost. The war boss snapped the young wolf's neck.
Damn, dude.
Laughing in delight. Ragnar's inner wolf spirit howled with rage, and with the help of Kara, the talisman was retrieved.
It's so funny to me to think, like, you know, this is like horrific for like the Space Wolves involved, like they're watching their brothers get like killed in brutal ways and whatnot. But for like the orc war boss, you know, he just snapped his neck, and in his head I just imagine like the pyro, like Meet the Pyro video from like the Team Fortress 2 videos, you know what I'm saying? Like he's just having the time of his life, like just like, oh, that was a great fight, yeah, hell yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like fucking just having the time of his life. They're absolutely fucking psychopaths, you know, just loving it, you know, laughing at it and shit, you know. And then the Space Wolves are just like horrified because like obviously his friend just got his neck snapped in a brutal way, you know. But damn,
with rage, and with the help of Kara, the talisman
Lars was meant to be tested into a room.
With Hakon
was meant to be tested to be a room priest, a librarian. Okay,
as the group retreated for
that's quite the loss then. Wow.
The time was ticking away as orcs began to swarm their position. Surrounded and moments away from extraction, Ragnar uttered the words that no proud Fenrisian would have dared say. He bartered for their lives, something almost completely unheard of to a Space Wolf. But
really?
The ploy worked. The confusion and contemplation from the orcs bought them just enough time to be extracted back into orbit. It was genius. And as the survivors cheered for their success, Ragnar stared down at his stomach, seeing the gaping wounds he had taken seconds before their rescue, and he collapsed to the ground.
So he just simply put his pride aside and just like offered the orcs like a negotiation, just like mid-combat, just like threw them a question, shouted a question mid-combat, and it just like stopped hostility for a few minutes and just made the orcs just confused, like because they're so fucking like simple that they just didn't know how to answer it, and they actually like considered the offer. I could see that. I could literally see that. That's like plot armor, but in a believable way because it's from the orcs. Damn. You know what I mean? Like I'm not even mad about that.
It had taken seconds before their rescue, and he collapsed to the ground. He was at death's door for weeks. With the intervention of aid on the Inquisitor's ship and the psychic powers of Kara Isan, Ragnar was wrenched back to the land of the living. Though very un-Space Wolf, Ragnar's tactical delay had saved them all, but he felt no joy in the mission's success. Lars was dead. The melancholy of losing a brother who you had lived by, shared stories, and food with is a feeling shared by many in our world who have been unfortunate enough to experience war. Lars had saved him, but Ragnar couldn't save him. He even missed his funeral rites. If only he had been stronger, if only he hadn't been so weak. Ragnar remembered the stories about the Old Fangs, the veterans who were the last surviving members of their original Bloodclaw pack, and the thought filled him with dread. Recovering from his wounds, with the help of the Inquisitor Kara Isan, with whom Ragnar had become close to, he was at last reunited with the remainder of his pack. With a piece of the Eldari talisman collected from the vaults of the Fang, and the one recovered from the Orc warboss on Guld, only one piece remained. Using the two pieces in hand as a beacon, Kara Isan utilized her psychic powers to locate the last piece, leading them to a location dreaded and desired throughout the galaxy. A space hulk. The mass of ancient and modern ship carcasses that drifted between reality and that realm of madness.
That's not good.
Often infested by horrifying xenos and abominations, it would be a long and perilous journey for any looking for the prizes held at their center.
I will say, anytime we get like some like stories about going into space hulks and shit like that, it always makes me a little bit excited, because like you never know what you're gonna get, you know? Like you do, but you don't, because there's always just like something in there potentially, which is insane. Like these ships are massive. They've been around for not ever, obviously, but for in the galactic sense, but in humanity's sense, they've been around for a long fucking time, shifting between the Materium universe and the Immaterium universe. And it's just kind of insane to me. So like, anytime you go in here, you know, you never really know what you're going to find, what you're going to deal with, the shit that's going to come at you, the shit that you potentially might learn. Just very, very interesting. Love seeing like time on space hulks, you know? Some hulks will be totally empty. That's true too. But I feel like there is a lot of them, right? Like, and there's a lot that are always like in the warp that have been gone, or like, you know, because time flows so much differently in the warp that will come out at different times, you know? Getting sent forward, backwards kind of in time. It's very, very strange seemingly, you know? Yeah. Who knows, right?
And perilous journey for any looking for the prizes held at their center. Again, the pack and the Inquisitors set off on their path, traveling miles through damp, stale steel corridors. Possibility of danger being around every corner. The feelings of failure plagued Ragnar's thoughts. He had to control
20,000 years of warp travel for you? Yeah, true.
His wariness through
been scavenged, picked clean over that time.
The expedition delved further and further, until they were suddenly ambushed by a horde of malnourished and gaunt gene stealers. The doubt Ragnar
gene stealers on this one
manifested. He was distracted.
That sucks.
And only with the intervention of Sven did he survive. He admonished himself for this weakness. His brothers needed him, and he had to let go of his cloud, or those counting on him would suffer. Reaching the nest of the gene stealers, again the group was attacked. Ragnar, Sven, Hakon, Styrbjorn and Nils unleashed themselves upon the horde. Ragnar found himself renewed and butchered the monsters around him.
Nice.
Almost like swimming through a tide of broken flesh. Controlling the inner wolf spirit briefly, he took a moment to observe his surroundings, locating the talisman that the gene stealers were desperate to protect. He'd launched himself upon the commanding node, slicing the
Interesting how the orcs have this and now gene stealers have this talisman. Like everyone's kind of vying for it, it seems like here.
Covered in gore and Xenos filth, Ragnar turned and mirrored Sven's large grin. The wolf spirits inside, sated by the grand slaughter. Returning to the Inquisition's flagship, the expedition raced towards Arius. The world was in ruin. The plague that had emanated from the mysterious Black Pyramid of the world had claimed millions in its wake.
Shit.
Upon reaching the entrance, they were all witness to the horrifying pus and disease-ridden corpses of the unfortunate inhabitants.
Oh.
As Ragnar, the pack, and the Inquisitors entered the temple, an Eldari hologram warned them to go no further. They meddled with things that they best left undisturbed. This path that they were on would only lead to catastrophe. The words of
The
Zeus
talisman
were
had
never
3
to be
parts.
trusted, and the
Wolves
expedition
merely
did
had
not
1
heed
piece
the
anyone knew
warning.
any history
Despite
about.
Ragnar Harp.
When did they get the first piece of the talisman, I wonder? Like, and like has it been a thing that they have always like seeked kind of thing, or is this like a recent development in their history? You know, I'm kind of curious about that. Because it seems like just now, like they're trying to get this a long time ago. That's kind of what I thought. So how come it's just like just now they're trying to like get the pieces back together, or was it recently like split apart? You know what I mean? Like recently in terms of 40k history, you know? Had it for a good few centuries. Damn. Okay. So they've just been taking their time on it, I guess. Seems like almost. Damn. Oops, I just pressed the Windows button instead of the space button.
Did not heed the warning, despite Ragnar harboring doubts. Reaching the last door with the reforged talisman, they opened it and peered into the heart of the chamber. And just before Ragnar could come to terms with a sudden wave of dread and nausea, a booming voice echoed from within. An enormous, disgusting demon, covered in rotting flesh and open sores that weeped foul rivulets of pus. The jovial, toxic voice of Botulaz, a great unclean one of Nurgle, thanked them for freeing him from his prison. The horrified group were set upon. Walking corpses flung themselves upon them. The situation was hopeless, and in their retreat, Inquisitor Sternberg fell first, followed by their fellow Bloodcore Nils, drowning in an encased tower of corrupted green pus. Sergeant Hakon led Ragnar and the survivors back to the entrance. They had been deceived, outmatched, even showing the signs of infection themselves. Moments away from being swarmed by the raising corpses of the city around them. This did not feel like the warrior's death that every Fenrisian desired. They prepared for their end, but the sickly Kara...
Admittedly, yeah, dying to Nurgle would be like so anti-Space Wolf to me. Like, I feel like that would be like the worst way to go out for you. Like, because like you're kind of... You know, I don't even know. Like you're not dying gloriously. You're kind of like alive but rotting. Like it seems like such a fucking counter to like what they would believe in. You know, it's horrific for them, I would imagine. Damn. The Elder Ritual where the talisman was taken was trying to strengthen the prison of Budalas. Budalas? I don't think I know much about him. I guess we're gonna have to find out.
Every Fenrisian desired. They prepared for their end. But the sickly Kara Isan spoke of a plan that filled Ragnar with dread. Ragnar, Stybiorn, Hakon, Kara,
he's been playing with certain psychers' minds to get the Inquisitor to free him without knowing. Damn.
The great unclean one. Ragnar fought with a fury not seen since the night his home was destroyed. The wolves bought time. Time for Kara to unleash the power of the Eldari talisman. Ragnar had grown close to Kara, to a level he knew that was unfit for a space marine. But duty always came first.
What does that mean?
He howled in rage, his knuckles white from gripping his chain.
In a matter unfit for a space marine, does that mean they were, you know, I don't know if any of you guys have ever watched Game of Thrones, but they have like a what was it? What's her name? Like a Grey Worm and a not Melisandre. That's not her name. Fucking advisor to Queen Daenerys, I forget her name, but Grey Worm and like fucking that situation going on. Guys like, you know, I know they're not eunuchs per se, but you know, basically, you know, no urge, let's say, but you know, they kind of had like they had a thing going on. Is that correct? Close friends, he started to trust her, nothing more that we know about. Okay. So like you know, the history books will say they're close friends, of course, but, you know, I mean, it's probably omitting a few details, I'm sure. Like, I'm sure he, you know. But never mind.
First, as he howled in rage, his knuckles white from gripping his chain axe, Kara unbound her soul from her body, sacrificing her life to seal the demon inside.
That sucks.
Ragnar's first expedition from Fenris left scars. Two of his friends dead. But as is the life of a space wolf, there'll be more to come.
More fish in the sea! I know, it's not what he meant, but damn. Kind of timely. Hey, Battle Chicken, how you doing? Welcome back.
You think you know glory well, just because you have survived a single day of
Kane
battle.
does, damn.
To feel the thunder of munitions like the fury of the gods as the ground tears apart around you. To wet your blade with the blood of kings. To be the first man to land upon a planet crawling with alien terrors. That is to know true glory. Mark it well.
You bloody daydreaming again?
Sven asked.
Or can't you answer a civil question?
You'll find out when I ask one.
Ragnar responded, his nostrils dilating, catching the faintest hint of an acrid, inhuman scent on the wind. He looked over to Sven to see his friend had caught it too. Sven's marginally less keen nose twitched. The long moustache he had been cultivating since the campaign on Zekitor moved like the whiskers of some great hunting beast.
Damn.
You smell that?
He asked. Ragnar nodded.
Ice fiend, I reckon. Not too close, not too far either.
Perhaps you're not quite so bad at tracking as I thought,
said Ragnar.
We can't all have the razor-keen senses of the blessed of bloody Russ,
said Sven.
Maybe I should let you go and check this out on your own. After all, the cubs will give you all the credit for killing the beasts anyway. Even if I were to kill a whole bloody tribe single-handed while you stood back and applauded my fine bloody technique with a chainsword, they would praise you for it.
Ragnar checked his weapons. Tracking down the ice fiends was the purpose of this expedition. They had been raiding along the coastal glaciers and slaughtering the Macedon herds. It was time they were taught a lesson.
I think you're just jealous of my well-deserved reputation, he said.
I would be jealous if it was well-deserved. Unfortunately, all you do is hog the credit for my own heroic deeds.
Wow.
Like I did on Micah,
said Ragnar.
I feel like the Space Wolves very much have like dick measuring contests like constantly. It very much feels like it seems like it would be very much in their culture, in the Viking culture, to be, you know, apt to do that. Like straight up, like, oh yeah, you're taking all the glory from me, you know, you're taking my kills, like literally. Like the Space Wolves like definitely seem like the chapter, the Legion, you know, that would be concerned about fucking kill stealing, like straight up, and they're not even like, you know, servants of corn in that way. I think it's kind of funny.
Credit for my own heroic deeds.
Like I did on Micah,
said Ragnar.
The new aspirants all want to be like Ragnar, I imagine.
Pit before they could gnaw you to death.
You always have to bring that up, don't you?
Because Ragnar killed a Blackmane wolf during his trials.
I would have fought my way out in a few heartbeats.
He's already got a legend formed about him within the
plan was to
chapter.
choke the squig to death by thrusting yourself down its throat then, was it?
I was lulling it into a false sense of security,
muttered Sven, his eyes checking the horizon. Ragnar could tell he too had spotted the massive white shapes up till now were near invisible among the snows. Sven made a few practice swings with his deactivated chainsword just to loosen up.
I don't remember that being covered in the Codex Tacticus.
I'm a brilliant improviser.
Apparently.
Well, what about it? I don't cast up all the times I've pulled your fat out the bloody fire.
Holy shit.
What about the time on Venom, when I saved you from those heretics before they could chop you down with your own chainsword? You never bloody well hear me mention that, do you?
Not more than once or twice a day.
Sven was in full flow now, not to be stopped.
Or how about on that Space Hulk near Corellia or Corellius or whatever it was bloody well called? I saved you from those Tyranids.
Whatever it was bloody well called. I like the photographic memory kind of like slipped there. Whatever it was bloody called, just goes to show like how much like combat like the Space Wolves were probably like involved in, that even they like are just like fuck, all the names just kind of like joined together. I don't fucking know what it was called, bro. I just know we were killing heretics and I saved your ass yet again. That's all, you know. I think that's kind of funny.
Bloody well called. When I saved you from those Tyranids. Never mention that, do I?
You just
Tyranids,
did.
not heretics.
Or what about that time?
Sven,
Yes?
shut up.
Don't tell me to bloody well shut up, Ragnar bloody so-called Blackmane. Just because you have a head swollen to the size of a small bloody planetoid doesn't mean I can't kick you.
No. Can't you hear it?
Hear what?
That.
There was a sound of cracking ice. Ragnar saw a crevasse start to open 10 strides away.
Glacier's breaking up.
He hissed, beginning to run forward as the crack splitting the ice came nearer.
I would never have noticed.
Said Sven sarcastically.
Quite probably.
Said Ragnar, racing forward and leaping over the gap. Sven was a few strides behind him, but leapt fractionally too late. It was obvious that he was not going to make it across the widening gap.
Oh
He
no.
was going to tumble down. Russ alone knew how far. Ragnar leaned down and grabbed his friend's outstretched hand, tugging him forward and sending him sprawling into the ice beside him.
Siding with the Ice Fiends now, eh?
Said Sven around a mouthful of snow.
No, just saving your life yet again.
Yeah.
So you say.
I like how, yeah, like they shit talk, but like they're bros, you know what I mean? I do really, I have to say, like, I never really looked into the Space Wolves at all, but I will say, like, just the way they are, like, they seem like, they seem pretty cool, I'm not gonna lie. Like, even the relationship they have amongst each other, like, they do dick swing, but like, they are still like brothers and friends at the end of the day. Like, you know what I mean? They don't really, you know, they talk shit and they like throw shade, but it's like it's an endearing sense, you know what I mean? It's not to like be like, oh fuck, you know, you're useless or whatever. It's kind of like almost an inspiration to like do better for them, you know. It's like the traditional like Viking like lifestyle, you know, where they're gonna tell stories to each other, they're gonna grow from it, kind of thing. I really like that like whole like spiel he had there before like all that happened though. He's just going off on Ragnar here about how hot-headed and like big-headed he is. It's pretty awesome. They are a pack, they compete, but they pull together like few others can. Exactly. I couldn't have said that better myself. Exactly.
Mouthful of snow.
No, just saving your life yet again.
So you say. I was doing fine before your sneak attack sent me sprawling.
Going to wedge open the crevasse with your thick skull, were you? Best use for it, most likely.
Sven bounded to his feet and cast a casual glance over his shoulder, checking on the distance separating them from the Ice Fiends. Several hundred strides lay between them still. It looked like the Ice Fiends were waiting to see whether the crevasse took them.
Yours is the only head around here big enough to fill that hole,
said Sven cheerily. The ground beneath their feet started to move again as the glacier shook.
Maybe we should get off this frozen river of ice before it swallows us both up,
said Ragnar.
Well, looks like the only way out is through them,
said Sven, gesturing to the approaching Ice Fiend.
And your point is?
Just giving you directions in case you get lost again,
said Sven, turning and racing towards
That's
the
awesome. The
approaching
banter
creatures.
between them is really, really
Ragnar
good. I like it a
followed
lot.
him, the snow crunching under his ceramite boots and splashing off his greaves, his breath clouding the air like steam. The Ice Fiends bellowed challenges. The two Bloodclaws answered with their whooping war cries. It was glorious to be one of the chosen of Rus. The brotherhood and adventure was everything Ragnar had dreamed it would.
Also, I imagine when they say the only way like forward is through them kind of thing, I imagine they quite literally mean like, you know, through them, like quite literally, like probably straight fucking through them, where it's like, holy shit, you know, you don't even need to swing your sword or your weaponry or anything. Just start sprinting full tilt. Don't stop. You know what I mean? Don't stop. Just through them, quite literally. That's all you need to do.
Rus.
Maybe like hold your arms out in like a straight 90 as you run. Fucking get some clotheslines in there, you know?
His heightened senses made his blood pump with a fury unseen. His wolf spirit howled with glory as he slayed.
Ice Fiends are a bit of challenge? Oh, are they? Okay.
To feast and drink.
I thought they were just like regular humans.
With his brothers.
Just like bandits or something like that.
Deeds of the fallen heroes.
Maybe not.
With their heightened abilities and senses, Ragnar could feel the presence of his brothers around him. The reassurance and safety it provided. It It had been over a decade since his transformation of Ragnar Thunderfist the Primitive to Ragnar the Space Wolf, whose deeds and reputation had already earned him the moniker Blackmane. Ragnar and his pack had seen numerous war zones, and his experience of the Imperium and its many frontiers had expanded his horizon. It was a journey full of hardship and pain, but also brotherhood. His friendship with Sven had deepened over the years. Their banter was legendary, ensuring that if Ragnar ever dared to feel full of himself, he was always one joke away from Sven pulling him back down to earth. They were close. They feasted, drank and fought together constantly, though at times Ragnar felt some distance from his friend. Sven was a Fenrisian and space wolf through and through. Loud, boisterous, brave and content. He did not ponder much about life, but Ragnar found himself at times lost in thought, reliving the past in his head, thinking in ways that were characteristic.
Back from wood splitting, I imagine so,
such as stalling for time with the Orc war boss and offering a fake surrender. Ragnar began to wonder if this is how those in leadership felt. The balance between a soldier and the son of Fenris. On the edge of promotion from Bloodclaw to the rank of Grey Hunter, distressing news arrived at the Fang. In the Great Hall, the entire chapter assembled.
Also, it's kind of interesting too, you notice, like they also like have a lot of like hair and shit, you know, on their face, on their head. You know, a lot of Space Marines that I've seen from others, like chapters, other legions, a lot of them are like bald or like short haired, you know, clean shaven for the most part, you know. You do get like some variation, of course, but with the Space Wolves here, it seems like you very much have like the traditional, like kind of like Wiccan look to them, you know, long hair, maybe braids potentially in the back there, long hair, clean cut on the sides, full beards, you know, very, very interesting, you know, look to them. Very non-typical, I think, for a lot of other Astartes. They tend to go unhelmed because it hinders their sense of smell. Oh, really? Shit, damn. I mean, that would make sense, I guess. Yeah, they do have like that that extra bit of ability, I guess, that animal-like ability to them as well, which is kind of cool.
Arrived at the Fang. In the
Vikings
Great
in space,
Hall,
true.
The entire chapter assembled. The legendary Great Wolf.
They don't have to abide by the
Logan Grimnar
what's it called? The grooming standards, let's call them.
There had been an uprising on the world of Garm, a sacred world to the chapter that had enshrined the legendary.
I'm gonna fucking have a beard. I'm not gonna go bald. Fuck that.
Forged by the Allfather, that was held in the hands of the Primarch Leman Russ himself. The spear had been taken. Their most holy site had been desecrated by the hands of filth. Ragnar, Sven, Sergeant Hakon, and Styrbjorn raced to their stations, finding themselves placed within the great company of the legendary Lord Beric Thunderfist. The grizzled veteran of the Legion was spoken of in awe, having fought in countless battles, and even dueling with the infamous Khan the Betrayer.
Damn,
Consequences being a bionic arm that became his heraldry.
Fuck.
His Thunder Fist. Known for his directness and to lead at the front, Beric
I'm surprised
was a
he's
man
alive, to be real with you.
And had plenty to spare for his brothers. Arriving within the system, the Space Wolves fleet came under immediate fire. In the somewhat enormous, but yet claustrophobic conditions of interstellar warfare, Ragnar and the pack followed Beric into war. The thought of dying in the cold, vacuumous space was unnerving to a proud Fenrisian. Beric's company launched themselves at the enemy, boarding a Chaos Cultist warship. The fight through the miles of steel corridor was a blitzkrieg of violence. They fought like an unstoppable force, Ragnar even showing distinction and ingenuity by causing a distraction that alleviated the pinned forces of the legendary Beric and his Wolf Guard. Though slightly admonished for his forwardness with the Wolf Lord by his mentor Sergeant Hakon, the invading wolves made their way deeper into the ship, laying their explosive charges at the heart, all covered in gore of the heretical enemies of the All-Father.
Ship combat would be so fucking like horrific, man. I imagine like, damn, like if you're like boarding a ship like this, like they are massive ships, but it's got to be such a horrific fighting environment. Like I imagine like how like I imagine like CQC fighting, like from what I've seen some of that from like, you know, modern day fighting. It's probably like that on crack, right? Like you got hallways fucking everywhere, doorways, opposing corridors, fucking like kill holes, you know, you don't know like what exactly is on this ship either, especially if it's a chaos warship. You got no idea what exactly you're dealing with per se on that ship, what could potentially come out of like the darkness at any point. Yeah, man, like just a brutal fucking fighting environment. And like I imagine, like, again, I advocate for like a game, a Warhammer style game that is a horror game that straight up just takes place on like a Space Hulk, or like even just an Imperium ship where it's like your ship's being invaded by like a certain race, like either the orcs or like, you know, or chaos, something like that. I think that'd make for like such a fantastic horror game, straight up. I think that would be right up my alley, straight up. Like you're just some like regular human guardsman like hiding in the fucking like vent ducts, like trying to like escape from chaos, you know what I mean? Like that shit would be awesome. Straight up, that'd be scary, bro.
All covered in gore of the heretical enemies of the All-Father. As the company retreated, many space wolves howled their death cries and met their glorious end. Making it back onto their own vessel, an intense silence washed over them. Ragnar and the company turned to their leader. With the exploding enemy ship visible from the windows, Beric cheered, lauding at how they had built a suitable pyre for their fallen brothers. The roar from the walls was deafening. Ragnar unleashed all the anxiety he had accumulated over the battle, relishing in the joy of brotherhood. The pack hoisted up the centuries-old Sergeant Hakon on their shoulders, but Beric bellowed them to be silent.
Some of these ships have 10 to 50,000 people on them that live for generations on that ship.
Reinforcements had arrived.
And that's what I find like so interesting about it. You know, concepts like that were kind of introduced to me when I read the books back when I was younger. The book Ender's Game. They obviously made it into a movie. I read, I think there's 2 or 3 books. I read them all. I do remember I read them all, but like concepts like that, where it's like if you're sending an interstellar fleet, now in Ender's Game, the technology is a lot different, right? They're using much more conventional grounded means, I guess, of propulsion, right? But it's the concept of like the people you're sending from Earth, it's going to take you 50, 60 years to get to your destination. By then, right, a lot of the original crew members on that ship are going to be elderly, right? They're going to be 60, 70 years old if you sent them when they were in their 20s, right? So the idea of like, you know, each ship is going to have kind of like its self-contained ecosystem. They're going to have to, you know, reproduce in a sense to keep like the ship maintained, to keep the ship operational for eventually when it gets to its destination that it can fight properly, right? It's a very, very interesting concept that was introduced. What do you see that? You see that in Mass Effect too, I guess, with the Quarians as well, right? So very, very interesting. I find concepts like that extremely like not up my alley, you know, but like very interesting to kind of like think about, because like holy shit, like what all is involved in that, right? Because you gotta, you know, and these ships are massive, like they totally can sustain life for that long, but it's just like damn, you know, it's craziness. The Rogue Trader video game is great for showing the sorts of things Imperial ships deal with on a regular basis. Damn. Again, I haven't played that game at all. I don't know if I would ever like play to beat a game like that. I don't know if it's like my kind of game, you know what I'm saying? But it does seem like a very, very interesting game. I'd like to try it. I just don't know if like, you know, I just don't know if it would be like my kind of game, you know, the kind of game that like I'm into. But definitely seems like a very interesting game and a lot of stuff in it from what I've seen. Lots of stuff to do. And it would be like a great like lore look into the universe of 40K, I will say. Seems like there's a lot of stuff going on in there.
Quiet fell.
It's great, yeah. I've heard that a lot. I just like, I don't know, like
arrived.
that.
The second roar was even.
I like
louder.
XCOM and games like that. I've just never beaten XCOM. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just don't know if I would.
And to lift a
I just don't know if I would like beat it. You know, that's the problem.
The third roar was by far the loudest. This is what it
if you like Darkest Dungeon, Rogue Trader would be great for you. That's fair.
The camaraderie, the glory, and the bond of brothers.
Is it more like XCOM or is it more like Darkest Dungeon, would you say?
Unnoticed. Beric and his Wolfguard even requested an audience with the young pup to give him gratitude and to seemingly size him up. The first stage of the war had been a glorious success, but the surface of Garm would be an altogether different beast. Ragnar was about to face his most grueling and painful journey yet, and Garm would change him forever.
Spear of Russ. Never played XCOM, but I think the combat is akin to that. XCOM is great. XCOM is great.
Ragnar looked into
stream
the
XCOM a little bit.
sarcophagi, wondering why Hakon had sent for him. The old sergeant lay stiff and unmoving. Gurgling tubes, filled with greenish fluid, snaked from the walls of the ancient biomagical machine in the sergeant's flesh. His carapace had been peeled away, giving him a strange, vulnerable look. His skin was pallid, like that of a corpse. A metal mask covered one half of his head, hiding the great hole in his skull. The scars on the remaining side of his face stood out even more strongly. Only his eyes looked alive. They burned with fury. The wolf priest nodded to Ragnar, telling him it was all right to speak, and then retired to his duties. A few moments later, Ragnar could hear him mustering medical incantations over some of the other patients.
How are you?
Ragnar asked. Hakon's lips quirked into a tight smile, but the fury never left his eyes.
I have been better,
He said.
You will be so again.
Hakon gave a near imperceptible shake of the head.
I do not think so, Ragnar.
Damn,
I
dude.
have heard the healers speaking. There is too much damage to my body for me to heal. Parts of my brain were blown away. My
Fuck.
spine is damaged. I will never fight again.
Nah, bro.
For that,
Don't say that. Listen, you'll make perfectly great dreadnought material, man. I promise you. If you can still talk like this, bro, and you can still get them voice lines out, they'll plug whatever's left of your brain into a dreadnought. I'm sure you'll be great. You'll be good to go, bro. Don't even worry about it.
spine is damaged. I will never fight again. Or
Nah.
walk, for that matter.
Nah,
There
you
was no self.
not with your legs, maybe your actual legs, but you'll
Only
walk.
truth.
Don't worry.
Ragnar did not know what to say.
No dreadnought for him.
Confronted
Aw,
by
really?
the magnitude of the sergeant's loss.
Watch him. You'll learn from his flaws, too, if you're as smart as I think you are.
Why are
This
you
is a
telling
really
me
great
this?
mentor moment, man.
Because I am an old man, Ragnar,
Yeah.
and I do not have much more time in the flesh. I can see something in you, Ragnar. Rannoch could as well. I'm not sure that it is something good, but good or no, I believe you will have a great impact on the chapter if you survive. I am trying to make sure that you do more good than harm.
I always do my best.
Aye. And that might be your undoing, Ragnar. For you are headstrong and have very distinctive views of what the best is.
Interesting.
It's a failing that most wolves have until we get some grey hair and a little sense.
Ragnar wondered whether the healing potions were making Hakon's mind wander. They sometimes did that even to men with
This is a really, really great
strong
moment.
as Space Marines.
I'm going to pause here just to talk a little bit. Great mentor moment we're seeing here. The dialogue is fantastic, I will say. Some of you guys said that there were some really great quotes in here. I can see that, the dialogue in this. It's very good between the characters that I've seen, between Sven and Ragnar, between Ragnar and this mentor here. The dialogue is fantastic, I have to say. And he is trying to impart knowledge, right? Like, the Space Wolves, I feel like the younger Space Wolves are very brash, very rambunctious, let's say. They don't think a lot. They're more in it for the combat, right? They're trying to prove themselves, right? That's just the culture that they have, I think. So the fact that he is just straight up saying, you use your head already, that's good. I can sense something in there. You're an angry person, you kind of have to deal with that yourself. Good or bad, I'm trying to make sure that you are on the right path at a minimum, because I don't have time left to mentor you to the right path, I think this is a great moment, straight up.
Sometimes did that even to men with constitutions as strong as the Space Marines. Under the strain of injury,
Book is
their
even
body's
better,
ability
yeah.
to metabolize poison and drugs somewhat behaves strangely.
Is that all you have to say?
Ragnar asked.
No. Despite what I just said,
I imagine there's a lot
I
more
wanted to tell you
context
that
in
I
the
was
book.
proud of you. You were the best batch of aspirants I ever trained at Rusvik. Maybe
Damn,
the
dude.
best I ever saw.
That's
See
quite the
that you
compliment.
live up to that.
Pride filled Ragnar at the old man's words. Hakon had always been a rough-tongued man and never spared a word of praise for anybody. Apparently, he had hidden his true feelings. At this moment, 2 Iron Priests entered. Something about their attitude told Ragnar they had come to take Hakon away. They gestured for him to leave. Hakon saw this and nodded.
That's all. Go, now, and may Rus watch over you.
Ragnar nodded.
Nearly
and made
2
the
books
sign
worth of
the
history
wolf.
between this
You could
pair.
see Hakon
Damn.
flinch as he tried to do the same.
I imagine this was a
His body
super,
would
super
not
sad
respond.
moment in the books then.
Ragnar halted for a moment and then turned to go. As he
The
left
connection was
medical
probably very,
bunker,
very
He
strong.
knew for certain that he would never see the old man again.
That's
and that
sad.
left him greatly saddened.
Yeah.
Falling like the
Wow.
thunder of the All-Father.
That was a really good
Ragnar,
moment, though.
Styrbjorn, Sergeant Hakon and Sven drop-podded down to the surface of Garm. Taking some slight damage, the group fell
He
off
trained
course,
Ragnar at Rusvik,
landing in
right?
the midst of a chaos
He's been there
cultist
since the
position.
start, yeah.
The inner wolf howled for slaughter, and Ragnar cut down the corrupted shrine desecrators. They had racked a bloody tally, but more kept coming, and they're beginning to be overwhelmed, stabbed, beaten, shot, and moments away from death once again. It was a brother who saved him. Sergeant Hakon roared into combat, saving his life, but in the process he was mortally wounded, leaving Lord Beric to promote Ragnar to temporary command of his pack. At the edge of death, Hakon gave his last minutes of life to speak his final words to him, Ragnar. You are
His
a
second
thinker,
squad leader after the
perhaps
first
too
was
much
killed
of
by
one.
Maddox.
Being
Damn.
an overthinker, Ragnar often felt disconnected from moments when he felt he should lose himself in. Sometimes we know that feeling of being an observer rather than a participator. You have to
Right.
learn to control your anger. His inner wolf spirit. It had saved his life many times, that reserve of fury. But even in our own lives we know, anger blinds and poisons reason. Be careful of the youthful righteousness you feel, for it has not been tempted by the wisdom of experience. We are never as smart or as wise as we think we are. Surety should come from experience, not blind self-belief. But why say any of this at all? It was because like Rannick, like his brothers, Hakon believed in Ragnar. Even Lord Beric could see the potential. It was a passing of a torch. The will of those who had passed it to Hakon long ago.
Right.
Ragnar accepted it as his mentor passed from this world. Returning to his pack, Ragnar and the others prepared themselves for the upcoming battle. Rescuing some loyalist survivors outside of the hive cities of Garm, the wolves discovered the source of the uprising to be a corrupted member of the Imperial Ecclesiarchy.
Oh, shocker
the
there.
Cynreius, who had sealed himself deep within his own bastion, his temple to
So he's a
chaos,
corrupted member of the
directing
Ecclesiarchy, dude. Every
directly
fucking
to the
time.
legendary
Every fucking
great
time.
wolf, Logan Grimnar, and his wolf lords. The wolves set off to cleanse the world and reclaim the Spear of Russ, trudging through miles of
It's not the
murky
Hive Governor, it's
and
the
cold
ecclesiarchal priest,
underground
dude.
tunnels as the Imperial forces engaged the heretical army above. Ragnar and Lord Beric's company found their way through. Reaching the temple gates, the wolves charged, howling their cries at the Allfather and Russ. Bloodclaws, Grey Hunters, the Longfangs and Wolfguard crashed upon the hordes of disgustingly mutated cultists. Ragnar with Sven, Styrbjorn, and his pack behind him leaped into combat, cleaving their enemy apart.
Shit,
Smoke and
dog.
fire all around them. Like men possessed, the wolves tore their way into the temple, and Ragnar finally caught sight of him. Cynreius, wielding the Spear of Russ, surrounded by
Whoa.
dark, twisting energies, and a circle of dark priests chanting in the black tongue of chaos. The sight
I wonder how they got their hands on the Spear of Rust, though. Like, what's the history, like, up to that point? How exactly did they, like, manage to get that? Damn. Or was it just here on the planet, I wonder? Damn. A corrupt church member that's never happened IRL? Yeah, never happened IRL, for sure. Even in the context of 40k, man, like, straight up, how often is it straight up that it's the ecclesiarchy that, like, you know, that's where the issues are rising on the planet, you know? There's a problem there, you know? Fuck. Planetary rebellion? Yeah.
circle of dark priests chanting in the black tongue of chaos. The sight horrified and angered Ragnar to his core, but before he could interrupt the ritual, a familiar form seemed to sprout from the inside out of one of the cultists before him. That sickly, ancient, ornate armor he had seen before. Maddox. The Thousand Sun sorcerer. was
Oh,
alive.
great.
Taunting the young wolf, the Chaos Sorcerer unsheathed his poisonous Chaos Blade and dueled with Ragnar once again. Ragnar was outmatched, barely holding on. Even with the help of Sven, it was not enough. Maddox rammed his sword through Sven's chest, dropping the bleeding wolf to the ground.
Shit.
Ragnar again had seen a brother put his life before his, and the wolf spirit within him was unleashed. All around him, Thousand Sun Marines exploded.
So did Sven just
out of the
die there
foolish
again?
Cultist victims. Cynreius was channeling a chaotic ritual through the spear. Maddox continued to taunt Ragnar during their duel. The wolves would die here. Garm.
I will say too, you guys know me. I love the aesthetic of the Thousand Suns, dude. Like their armor, just the way they kind of like look. I don't know. Maybe just me. I know it's probably not everyone's like favorite style, but I think for like in terms of like chaos armor, it's Thousand Suns or definitely like the Forces of Khorne, right? Like even like Heretic Guard regiments of Khorne, they just look so fucking cool to me. I don't know, like just the way their armor style is, like the way their aesthetic is, looks fucking sweet to me, man.
Ragnar during their duel. The wolves would die here. Garm will become a new Prospero, and the demon
Thousand Suns look sick.
Magnus
Yeah,
will
I think
enter
so
the
too.
Material universe once again.
They do just look
Their
badass as far
weapons
as like
clashed
chaos forces
at
go.
blinding speed. The duel was brutal and was only broken apart by the swarming mass of Thousand Suns and Space Wolf bodies clashing up on them. With a brief respite, Ragnar
Look at that
and Lord
face in the
Beric
bottom there, what the
reunited
fuck?
and fought back to back. They had to make a break for Cynreius and the spear and stop the ritual from summoning more of the Thousand Suns and close the gaping warp portal emerging in front of them. Buying time with his wolf guard, Beric allowed Ragnar to charge at the corrupted ecclesiarchal priests. Ragnar, covered in wounds and on his last reserves of rage drawn from witnessing his friend Sven being mortally wounded, he tore the heretic apart. But in the wake of his victory, a looming figure appeared. A large, one-eyed face projected itself from the warp portal, a shimmering dark silhouette with one baleful eye.
Magnus himself is here?
The battered, wounded Ragnar reached down and seized the spear of Russ. With the last of his strength, he threw it directly into the projected eye of the demon, closing the portal and leaving the hateful screams of a god echoing across the battlefield.
Damn, dude. Kind of a goated maneuver there he just pulled. Holy shit. Sven mortally wounded? Yeah. Now we're on Terra. Holy Terra.
Ragnar awoke inside the cold, deep cell below the
maybe not yet.
on Fenris.
Fang on Fenris.
The wolves had won. The thousand suns had been banished, and the one-eyed demon Magnus had been defeated. But the spear of Russ had been lost, casted into the warp portal by Ragnar, sealing it inside.
That sucks.
Ragnar had saved them, but at the cost of the chapter's most priceless relic.
Literally.
A piece that was said to be claimed by Russ when he would walk again amongst men. But now that prophecy was in jeopardy. The mix of emotions Ragnar was...
Well, that's not even true, because Russ is in the warp, right? As far as anyone knows. So, honestly, maybe that's fulfilling the prophecy. He just threw it through that portal. Now fucking Russ is going to, like, claim it in the warp and maybe come back with it. Who knows, right? Who knows?
But now that prophecy was in jeopardy. The mix of emotions Ragnar was going through was exhausting. Surety in his actions, shame at having lost the spear, nervousness at his fate within the chapter, fear at the accusations of chaotic corruption, comfort from the counsel of Sven and his old mentor Ranek. Brought before the great wolf Logan Grimnar and the Wolf Lords, they decided the fate of this young pup. Ragnar was divisive, half supported his actions, whereas the others decried.
Threw it and wounded Maggie, so unless Russ was with Maggie when that happened. Well, you know, in the warp, again, shit can happen, right? Like, you know, Russ went in there with the intent of hunting shit down, right? Much like, I guess, you know, it's a little bit different in Corvus's case now, I guess, but kind of like he is right now, right? He's hunting Lorgar down at the moment, right? As a warp entity himself, almost. But, you know, Russ still being, like, alive, I guess, to our knowledge, right? I don't know, maybe he'll get some shit done within there. Who knows, I guess. There's a lot of weird shit that could potentially happen, you know? Who knows? Sven leaves the story here. He only lost his right forearm to Maddox. Oh, really? So he's still alive? He's just not in the stories anymore? Is that true? Really? That kind of sucks.
Whereas the others decried them. Many voices insisted that the foolish brother be punished for his sacrilege. Some even called for his death. Ragnar was a problem. A split amongst the chapter that they could not afford to have. He felt awful. To be at the center of all this attention is a position no one would envy. The great wolf Grimnar debated with his council and presented the young Ragnar with his fate. Ragnar would be sent to Terra, the heart and capital of the Imperium. He was now Ragnar Blackmane, the Wolfblade. He would join the detachment sent to guard the ancient allies of the Wolves, the Navigator House Belisarius. Ragnar knew what this task meant. Exile. Gathering his personal belongings, he bade farewell to his friend Sven. A lump caught in his throat as he realized that they may never see each other again.
That's
and
sad.
He loved his brother, even if he couldn't get the words out. As he strode to the ship, his mentor Ranek told him not to lose hope, that this was not the punishment he believed it to be. Holy Terror was just as dangerous as any battlefield. The birthplace of the Imperium held the highest level of wealth and political maneuvering within the galaxy.
And therefore
it would
threat
be
too.
unlike any war zone Ragnar had ever seen. And
also, I gotta say too, like, hard not to see that as an absolute honor too. Like, you're getting sent to Holy Terra, even as an emissary of your chapter, of your legion. Like, bro, that's big shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's not like a small like thing to think about, or a small like honor. Like, you know, you got to take the ups with the downs. You can maybe see it as exile, maybe as an Astartes, it kind of sucks because you might not be getting the most like forefront action like that you're looking for. But like, damn, still, like you gotta take it what you can get, right? Like that still has got to mean a lot, straight up. Exile to work for one of the most powerful families in the whole Imperium, a navigator house with external contracts with the wolves. Like that's kind of what I'm saying. Like this doesn't really seem like exile. This seems like a very big deal to me, if anything. Like, you know, like Belisarius, like that's not a small house, you know, like I've heard that name, you know, and I don't know a ton, and I know that name even. So it's like, shit.
It would be unlike any war zone Ragnar had ever seen, and every action, reaction, and expression would be judged and measured. Again, Ragnar caught a lump in his throat. Rannick had supported, counseled, and believed in Ragnar for years. The thought of never seeing him again was heartbreaking. Alone, Ragnar ascended the ship, a wolf without a pack, a man without his friends, and the looming feelings of shame and failure. Aboard the ship, Ragnar met his charge, the navigator Gabriella Belisarius. Her sharp, angular features unnerving him, but not as much as the hidden truth concealed on her forehead. The navigator's third eye.
We're not gonna pause on it and talk about it, but I heard that.
The warp required those born with the eye that could withstand looking into the warp's tides. The very existence of the Imperium was hinged upon its logistics, and for those who controlled it, wielded enormous political power.
You heard nothing? Yeah, exactly. I heard nothing. That's exactly
to
right.
The unaccountable Inquisition. The dynasty houses of the navigators were obscenely wealthy, and wherever wealth lies, corruption, politics, and murder follow.
Very
For
true.
Over 10,000 years,
as we saw in the Battle of Athens video
House
today. Holy
Belisarius
shit!
Have been allies. One navigating the vast navies of the wolves, and the other offered protection and a personal guard of wolf blades.
Told you Ragnar goes through chicks like Kane does? Yeah, damn, dude.
Celestark of House Belisarius, just as if they were the great wolves themselves. Ragnar was about to enter a pit of vipers. The news had come during Ragnar's trial. The previous Celestark and a veteran Wolfblade had been murdered. Not even a day into their journey to Terra, Ragnar and Gabriella were attacked. An assassination attempt from within their own ship. The level of dedication shocked Ragnar. Life on Fenris had always been direct. But now his enemies could be anywhere and anyone. It was weeks of constant vigil with Ragnar staying close by Gabriella's side. The woman was witty and clearly was dangerous herself, but there was no space for lapses, even if something about the navigator made him unnerved. Finally, the two reached their destination, Holy Terra, the capital of the Imperium, the birthplace of humanity. The resting place.
Very cool. He's actually going to Terra here.
Golden throne. You can imagine the mix of excitement and fervor flowing from Ragnar's veins as he looked upon the planet-side city. Its very silhouette screaming of power and obedience.
Yeah.
The mass of ships and
like just thinking where he came from, right? Like he came from Fenris, like a backwater, not really a backwater world, but in terms of technology. In terms of like the culture, the environment there, and then eventually you become a space marine, right? You work your way up the ranks, you go through so much, and then you're actually going to the heart of the Imperium itself, Holy Terra itself. Like that's such a crazy journey. Like again, like I can't imagine seeing this as an exile. Like this is an honor, if anything. Like straight up, like yeah, it's not maybe necessarily what a space wolf is looking for in terms of the action he's looking for, but. Again, like this is a big deal, like people don't just get to see this. Astartes in general don't necessarily get to just see Terra, like it's a very big deal.
Screaming of power and obedience. The mass of ships and people swarming the space around Holy Terra was unlike anything Ragnar had ever seen. Making landfall within House Belisarius' quarters, the smell of pollution and incense almost overwhelmed the razor-sharp senses of Ragnar. A thick haze had draped itself over everything, blending with the billions of lights, blurring the lines between night and day.
Wow.
It was not what Ragnar had expected, and the claustrophobic feel must have been shocking. Greeted by an honor guard, Lady Gabriella and Ragnar finally set foot on Terra, and immediately Ragnar caught a familiar scent, turning to see his Wolfblade brother approach. Torrin the Wayfarer, a wolf whose
Torrin the
appearance
Wayfarer.
matched the refined and trimmed decorum of the Terran guards. A man who seemed to be more at home in this pit of vipers. Mighty Hagar the Mountain, an enormous Hastati whose unexpected mutation of his gene seed meant he grew larger than any of his brothers. What he lacked for in intellect, he made up for it in appetite and brute strength. Valkoth, an elderly scholar whose very preoccupation was hated and ridiculed amongst those born of Fenris, seen as weak and heretical. And then Ragnar, the cunning, fury-driven youth who had lost the spear of Russ. They were all, in a way, outcasts, the ones who didn't quite fit in with their chapter. It was comforting to have brothers so far from home, but immediately Ragnar was gripped by a sense of hollowness.
Enter the pimp.
Settling into his cramped quarters that looked like someone who had tried to recreate the conditions of the Fang through a description. He settled
Fenrisian
into
dressing
his
almost
new
properly
home,
and well
his
shaved.
new
Yeah.
battleground.
Yeah, I wonder
Even
if they
his
have to clean
first
up
day,
going to Terra.
danger found
Damn.
him, as Ragnar, Torrin and
point.
Hagar were ambushed whilst drinking within a local tavern. The
Ah.
ferocity of the wolves was clearly surprising to those foolish enough to attack an Hastati. Ragnar even
Pimpin' the
surprised
walrus
his own
now.
brothers. Thinking
They
of
should
the
turn that
words
into a
Vanek
song,
left
dude.
with him, Ragnar began to think in a new way, to see the bigger picture. That cunning he had shown with the long-dead Inquisitor Kara Isan had evolved. The hidden meaning within words, the subtlety of body language and sense. Even the veteran Wolfblade Torrin was surprised at how quickly Ragnar had caught on. Immediately, Ragnar was plunged into a situation that would change the entire political structure of the Imperium. The murder of the previous Celestark. Lady
shit.
Gabriella's father would be the most dangerous path he had ever walked. Covert missions, investigations, and dissecting schemes became the young wolf's constant day-to-day life.
Definitely
The
not
investigation into the
what they're
previous
used to, that's
Celestark's
for sure.
death had put Ragnar, Torrin,
Oh, wow.
and Hagar in the
That's kind of cool. That reminds me straight up, looking at this, like those automata there, they straight up look like the automata from Frostpunk almost a little bit. That looks really, really cool. I like that style, like that steampunk kind of like I guess like early automata look. Like that's right up my alley. I like that shit a lot.
the presence of extremely dangerous group.
Maybe I'll stream some
armed
Frostpunk after this,
militias,
unironically.
zealous
Maybe we do
militant
that.
Purists
I'm down.
that resided deep in the slums of Terra, decrying the existence of their mutant navigator overlords, and even the presence of the other navigator houses. Accompanying Lady Gabriella and Torrin into the luxurious quarters of House Veraci, Ragnar saw perhaps the most dangerous man in the Imperium.
Thing about Hagar is he never stops eating. He'll eat 3 cows and still want more food. Holy shit.
Hidden and overt.
How big is he? I wonder. Like, how big is he compared to like a Primarch? Because they say he's fucking huge, right? Like, how big actually is he? Like, would he compare? You know what I'm saying, to a Primarch at all, or nah? Is he just big for an Astartes? You know what I'm saying? He's actually an obese.
spirit inside Ragnar began to rile itself up. It could sense the uneasiness. They were under attack. Keeping Lady Gabriella by his side, and his brothers with the ruling Celestark, Ragnar evacuated down into the innermost sanctums of House Belisarius' vaults. But the sights inside horrified him. Monsters, twisted abominations lie within. If you gaze long enough into the abyss will gaze back.
Is this what's attacking them, or is this just what they have?
Twisted the navigators into creatures of nightmare.
Oh god, okay,
the visuals,
yeah.
The alien scent. It horrified Ragnar.
Yeah.
His friend Lady Gabriella could sense it. But what right did he have to judge? Did his chapter not also hide monsters? Their Wolfen? The palace.
Tactical Dreadnought armor is Terminator armor's official name.
Clearly with
I feel like Terminator armor is one thing, but when you're talking within the Imperium, if they're sending like their own assassins at them here, right?
As his wounds mounted, the assassin had leaped.
Not an official Imperium. Oh, okay.
His friend
okay, not an official one. I got you.
The House Guard was swarmed by militants, and the Celestark and Gabriella were moments away from death. With his chain blade broken, his body beginning to fail, Ragnar made one last gambit. Using his bare hands, he grabbed the squirming embodiment of death. The wolf spirit took over, and Ragnar used his bare fangs, gorging on the victim until nothing moved.
Reclaimed honor. I imagine for keeping like her alive, like he's definitely getting reinstated to some degree here. Or rewarded in some way.
Over a decade passed for Ragnar, recovering from his wounds with his friends, Torrin, the mighty Hagar, and Lady Gabriella by his side.
Hired by a rival chapter.
For his astounding efforts and a victory over the assassination plot, orchestrated by Cesare Ferracci. A gleaming, sharp relic weapon was gifted to Ragnar, Frostfang. A deadly chain blade whose value and craftsmanship were irreplaceable, but most importantly was Ragnar's inner victory. His loneliness had gone. His sense of being exiled had vanished under the Brotherhood of the Wolfblades, and in performing his duty on a level that rippled throughout the Imperium. The time within the Brotherhood on Terra began to pass for the young wolf. A duty rife with the dedication and mindset that ruthless politics demanded. Ragnar and his fellow Wolfblades even found themselves embroiled in a Dark Angel's plot to capture and kill one of the elusive Fallen. Though the Dark Angels were the Wolves' greatest rivals, Ragnar had kept his word and promised to hold their secrets. It was a conflict that pointed to a name that haunted Ragnar.
The amount of infighting in the Imperium is crazy to me, man.
The sorcerer was too stubborn to die. With the discovery of his dark rival's involvement, the Wolfblades were summoned back to Fenris. Ragnar returning for the first time.
He was trying to get his
in
son elected, so he
decades.
essentially became...
The time for Ragnar to enjoy the sensation of home.
So he
would
essentially
be
became
short,
High Lord to the
as
Navigators. I
immediately
gotcha.
the horrifying news came
No
to
comment?
him.
I was gonna say,
Lord
Andrew, you want to
Beric
fucking
was on the
elaborate
edge
on this
of
a little
death,
bit?
And their enemy had
Dark
the
Angel
spear
plot,
of
eh?
Russ. In the Great Hall and
Little
the
bit
Fang,
sus.
all of them sensed it immediately, smelling Ragnar's apocalyptic
Rats in our
fury,
midst.
with the Great Wolf commanding him to control himself. Ragnar was angry at the sacrilege, but also at himself. His actions really did have the consequences that he feared. Ragnar swore an oath before all that he would return the spear or die trying. It was his mistake to fix. It was his shame to erase.
Plot is kind of twisting
his
it. Ragnar
honor
actually helped
to
us.
reclaim.
Damn.
Joining the rune priest Sigurd and his blood claws.
But it is
Ragnar,
still a plot
Thorin,
almost.
And Hagar cut an
If it's not
isolated
out in the
figure
open,
amongst their
technically it's a
brothers,
plot, right?
Stared at like they had been on Terra. Outsiders. But the cutting remarks from the young rune priest Sigurd surprised Ragnar, as did his unseemingly unmeasured, aggressive responses. Something was happening to him. His rage seemed uncontrollable. With Thorin, Hagar, Sigurd and Lady Gabriella by his side, the strike force made their way to the world of Charis, a frozen hellscape that seems to give them all an unsettling feeling. Making planetfall and engaging all kinds of abominations and cultists, Ragnar found their accursed enemy once more, the Thousand Sons. The group were wounded, fighting
Seems
with
like the
everything
Thousand
they
Sons are a
had,
constant
as
bad
group
guy
of
in this.
Chaos Raptors descended upon them, but their sickly roars were matched by a distant howl. Men in Baroque grey armour, with manes of fur dripped over them, unleashed themselves from the shadows, slaughtering the corrupted filth.
Damn, dude.
Piercing yellow eyes stared at Ragnar. He knew them well. He had seen that look on Kjell during his initiation into the chapter. A Wolfen. The 13th Great Company. Space Wolves lost during the time
It's
of
the
the
wolves,
Horus
they have a thing
Heresy.
for the Thousand
Men
Sons, yeah. It seems like they have a fucking almost targeted hatred for the Thousand Sons. Like after they burn their fucking home planet, bro, it's like, yeah, you know, we're just always gonna keep coming back to you specifically, you know what I mean? We're gonna fucking have our way with you. It just seems kind of funny. I'm sure it's not intentional, but it does seem targeted for sure. Damn, with how often it happens.
Space Wolves lost during the time of the Horus Heresy. Men who had walked
It's like them going
beside
traitor
Russ,
just gave them an
his
excuse
forefather.
straight up to like hunt them down.
Who succumbed to the curse, but had fought in the realm between realms for millennia. Ragnar couldn't believe it. Accompanying the legends to their camp, the wolves of the 40th millennium crumbled to their knees. That bestial instinct that Ragnar had fought down long ago re-emerged. His heart began to race. His fury was overwhelming. His desire to kill roared through his mind. His brothers around him, Thorin, Hagar, and Sigurd, were fighting this inner demon too. But for the other accompanying blood claws, sharp fangs, razor claws, and fur sprouted. All were horrified at what was happening. The accursed Maddox was using the spear of Russ as a conduit for a ritual,
I see.
awakening the wolfen curse within them. Ragnar's eyes changed. The piercing yellow shone out to his friends, each of them reflecting it back. Only 4 had kept their sanity and form, but it was a losing battle. Reunited with their brothers 10,000 years from the past, Ragnar spoke to the 13th Lost Company. They spoke of Leman Russ, the man. They spoke of his rough manner and imperate heart, of his wild oaths and petty rivalries, of his melancholic nature and his merciless rage. And in turn, Ragnar spoke of the Imperium and the Legion. But what captured the 13th Company's hearts was Fenris. He spoke of the Azerheim peaks, the great seas, the Fang, seeing in their faces hope and melancholy. He spoke.
They all remember it too.
Connecting with
Yeah.
his brothers kept the rising beast down.
Wow.
And as long as Ragnar lived, he would never forget this moment, even when the pride...
Here he is meeting the lost 13th Great Company. Thought lost in the warp after they chased Maggie into the warp on Prospero. Oh, damn. Okay, wow. So these guys have been fucking AWOL for quite a while at this point. Fuck. Damn, dude. That'd be pretty jarring to meet up with them. As a member of His Most Holy Inquisition, I will eventually track you and the rest of your chapter down, Dark Angel. Holy shit. Jesus Christ, Battle Chicken, yeah. I guess you're gonna have to sleep with an eye open now, Andrew. Fucking the Inquisition's on your ass. Uh-oh. Oh my god.
Ragnar lived. He would never forget this moment, even when the prideful Hagar shared his treasured ale with them. Letting themselves be a distraction for their ancient enemies, the 13th Company bid their brothers farewell. Ragnar, Torrin, Hagar, Lady Gabriella, Sigurd, and the barely sane Wolfen Bloodclaws set out for Maddox. Ragnar would end this. He would avenge Lord Beric. He would overcome the Wolfen curse rising within. He would abolish the shame he had carried for decades. And he would kill Maddox.
You look awful,
he said breathlessly.
Damn,
Ragnar
dude.
tried to grin.
So I am told.
He said. He rested his hand on Hagar's breastplate, amazed that the burly wolf hadn't already sunk into the red dream.
Save your strength,
he said, looking down to where Sigurd knelt with Torrin beside Gabriella's prone form.
I'll get the wolf priest.
Are you saying that the mighty Hagar is lacking in strength?
The wolf blade smiled weakly.
I should thrash you for that.
The young space wolf felt a terrible ache in his chest that had nothing to do with his wounds.
Get up and try then. Torrin will take bets, I'm sure.
Hagar's grin faded.
Some other time, perhaps,
he said softly.
Is Gabriella safe?
That's
Ragnar
sad.
glanced down at the navigator
It's actually kind
and
of
tried
sad.
to sound dismissive.
Torrin's with her.
He said.
She's resting, I think.
That's good.
The wolf blade said, his voice growing faint.
Tell her I'm sorry. I didn't want to leave her.
She knows, Hagar.
Ragnar said, his heart heavy with grief.
She knows.
The wolf blade's eyes grew unfocused. He blinked once more and smiled.
According to the subtitles, Hagar is a space ball. Darth Hagar.
He said, almost
True.
too faintly to hear.
Or
Oh, man.
I'll have drunk all the good ale before you get there.
He tried to laugh, but the breath escaped in a gentle sigh, and the mighty warrior grew still. Ragnar reached down and clasped his friend's broad hand in farewell. As he did, he saw the black gleam of Hagar's alehorn lying on the steps beside him. Maddox's hellblade had severed its carrying strap, but the vessel itself looked unharmed. The young space wolf picked it up and tied it to his belt. As he stood and made his way down the steps, a tremor shook the Chaos Temple, shifting the stones beneath the young space wolf's feet. He slipped on Beric surveyed the ruined chamber one last time.
Let's go.
He told his men.
There's nothing left to see here.
But as the Wolf Lord turned away, Sven's eyes widened, and he pointed back at the dais.
You may want to take another look, my lord.
The Wolf Lord glanced back. A white haze was taking shape where the governor's throne had once stood. It thickened, like mist, and he could see vague figures moving within. There was a clatter of bolters and a hum of power converters. As the long fangs rushed forward, weapons at the ready, Beric held out his hand.
Hold your fire,
he said. His nose caught a faint, familiar scent. The figures grew more distinct, as though they were approaching from a great distance.
Ragnar!
Sven shouted. The young space wolf appeared
Sven's
first.
here.
The spear of Russ held upright in his hand.
That would be
Torrent
baller.
the Wayfarer followed.
Yeah, look, boys, I fucking brought it back. You know what I did? And he's sitting there wounded. His boys. Man, it sucks that they didn't get there a little bit earlier. And I hope Gabriella will be okay. But like, what a redeeming factor! Like, they find him with the fucking spear already. Like, he's braced on it, wounded. Like, yeah, that's hero material right there, straight up. Like, how could they not take him back now?
The spear of Russ held upright in his hand. Torrent the Wayfarer followed, with the limp body of a navigator in his arms. Bringing up the rear was a young space wolf priest, with eyes far older than his meager years. A vague, towering figure stood beyond the limping, battered wolves. Beric studied the silhouette, and despite the gulf that lay between them, he knew he was looking at one of his kin. The warrior raised a
We're doing
mighty
these a couple
axe
times a
in
week
salute.
now. We're doing this one here on Friday because our Prefect Fyr, of course, he every Friday they get to recommend a video. All our prefects get to recommend a video for Friday that we check out. In this case, he's been wanting Ragnar for quite a bit. He hasn't been winning the poll, so I was like, whatever. I got free time on Friday today, so I figure why not stream Ragnar today? Get it Ragnar out of the way, give him the love he deserves. I'm sure. I'm really liking the quotes in here so far. I won't lie. We're probably not gonna make this like a constant thing, just one time a week for the Amber King videos. Typically, but in this case, I just wanted to throw a bone to our prefect and get Ragnar the love he deserves, kind of thing. Today is a special. 30-40K is still Saturday. That's right. Fyr has been super hyped about this. Yeah. He hasn't been talking in chat. I know he was here. A little bit earlier. I don't know if he's here right now. Guess we'll see. But oh well.
Just looking at one of his kin, the warrior raised a mighty axe in salute, and then vanished in the haze. In moments, the strange
No such
fog
thing
was
as innocence,
gone.
only degrees of
Ragnar
guilt.
approached
Yikes.
the astonished wolf lord. His face
You tell me,
pale as
Andrew, can the
alabaster.
lion survive a virus
Blood
bomb?
dripped
Holy
onto the
fuck.
stones with every step he took. He sank
good.
slowly to his knees before Beric, and with both hands he offered up
Throw a bone at the
Russ's
Space
spear.
Wolf, exactly.
We have
See
won
what I did
back our
there?
honor, my lord.
The young space
that
wolf
one?
said.
The spear of Russ is ours once more.
Old wounds.
My sight is a gift I cherish. It allows me to read the wisdom of the wise, but should I lose my sight, I will still be able to hear compositions of great masters and the voice of the wise. If I should lose my hearing, I will still be able to tune into universal intelligence, to understand the source of the wisdom of the wise. When the day comes that I lose my heart, that will be my greatest gift of all. For then, I will be back home in the arms of the spirit I have embraced all my life.
I don't know if I've heard of Michael
spear
Levy
of
before.
Russ.
Michael Levy, is that who that was? Michael Levy, yeah, the greatest gift of all. I don't know if I've heard of that before. Interesting. I'll have to look him up after.
Embraced all my life.
Usually I know like these X scripts. I've heard them
The
before, but I don't know that
spear
author.
of Russ had been returned. Ragnar had redeemed himself, though the cost of his journey had been high. In the gambit to reclaim the spear and stop the vile sorcery of Maddox, Ragnar again had almost died. His friend Lady Gabriella had sustained injuries that would be with her forever, And his
Damn,
friend,
really?
the boisterous and proud, mighty Hagar, had been slain by Maddox, another brother who had sacrificed himself to buy time, allowing Ragnar to ram the spear into his most hated rival,
True.
Maddox. Ragnar returns to his chapter, bidding farewell to Torrin and Gabriella, placing the spear of Russ back at the temple on Garm. He placed Hagar's drinking horn upon the shrine, gazing at the surrounding mural, depicting Sergeant Hakon as a mere grey hunter, to tune into universal intelligence, to understand the source of the wisdom of the wise. Wisdom is earned through the collection of experience, whether we try or not.
Yeah, we're still having a stream on Saturday, Steelwolf. This was a special feature, if you want to call it that.
Wounds, the young wolf joined his company once more, ascending the ranks at frightening speed. Shortly after he single-handedly slew the Orc warlord Borzak Khan.
Which, by the way, the poll for Saturday, for tomorrow's stream is posted. If you guys want to go vote on that, feel free to.
But his meteoric rise was not faultless. In a joint campaign with the Dark Angels, Ragnar made a mistake. In the sacred tradition that harkened back to the Great Crusade, the Wolves and the Angels would field champions wherever they met, recreating the duel of Lehman Russ and Lionel Johnson.
Damn.
Ragnar and the Dark Angels champion began to duel. It was the first blood, but the young wolf lost control. The cut across his cheek riled his inner wolf spirit, and he retaliated, cleaving Frostfang at his fellow Hastati.
Hey, Ragnar, calm down.
Head off.
Whoa!
Immediately he knew he had erred. The two chapters drew their blades on the edge of open war.
Yeah.
One figure.
I'm not gonna lie, that was kind of an unnecessary Ragnar crash out there. You know, listen, even if you don't like the Dark Angels, I like the Dark Angels. Don't get me wrong, I fucking love the Dark Angels. But, you know, to First Blood, Ragnar lost, and he just fucking responded by decapitating this poor Dark Angel. Like, bro, that seems like a bit of a fucking crash out there. Like, you know, hey, listen now, listen. Gotta learn some breathing exercises or something there. Holy shit.
Chapters drew their blades on the edge of open war, but one figure stepped forward. Soriel.
Like, he's got to get reprimanded for that now, right?
Angels. Knowing that it meant his death, he challenged Ragnar to Dulium Delor, to the death. It was a matter of honor and redemption. Soriel knew that open warfare would cost them both, and that by challenging Ragnar, he could sacrifice himself to end the matter once and for all, to settle the dishonor. Back aboard their flagship, the Wolves were divided, the young Bloodclaws and Grey Hunters cheering at the victory of their lord, but the older, wiser Wolves chastising him. Where was the honorable Ragnar, who had fought on dozens of worlds, putting his life in danger for others? Where was the measured Ragnar, whose cunning had helped him excel as a Wolfblade? The Space Wolf Nalfir Razor Tongue was particularly vicious, dressing down this upstart youth who had clearly been promoted beyond his talent. Though the young wolf accepted the duel, the wolves were attacked, Ragnar voxing over their situation and his apologies to Soriel, promising he would honor his word one day. The dishonor clung to Ragnar. He couldn't believe he made such a careless mistake.
Yeah, that's a pretty big fuck up.
Hakon, Beric, and Hagar had believed in him because he used his head. He was a thinker, and in his rage he had acted like an uncontrolled initiate.
Ragnar has a slight technicality with his lore. He has never been made to take the Grey Hunter's oath. He went Bloodclaw, Wolfblade, Wolfguard, then Lord. So he essentially like skipped a rank, if that's if that's the right way of thinking about it. Skipped like an appointment, I suppose. Damn. So is that like, so what exactly is like a what exactly is a Grey Hunter? You know what I'm saying? Like what does that signify, I suppose, you know? One of the best series I know of, Ragnar, GNF, Go Trek and Felix, yeah, and the Ghosts, easily the best, for sure, for sure.
and in his rage he had acted like an uncontrolled initiate, still wrestling with the wolf spirit. Reuniting with Lord Beric, Ragnar joined his lord's council after being scolded. A situation had arisen. The wreckage of an Hastati ship had been found by the wolves.
Oh, really?
Discovering the heraldry of the chapter, the wolves snarled in disgust. The flesh
Blood Claws is essentially scout level troops. The wolves just give their scouts power armor. Oh shit, okay.
The two. They were bloodthirsty, dishonorable murderers, Hastatis who attacked the innocent, unredeemable. The two servants of the Emperor hated each other, both responsible for slight.
So technically Ragnar never became an official Astartes? That's kind of based.
Dead. The council debated what to do with the floating wreckage. Some,
he's not real, he's not official,
cried that they should take it, add it to the arsenal of the wolves. Some wanted to abandon it, but Ragnar, with Nafir Razortongue glaring daggers at him, suggested they return it. The thought, let alone the vocalization of it, was unthinkable. It was suicide. And what reason did they have to aid such vile warriors? Ragnar did not back down.
We're getting a visit. Somebody's coming to visit me on my desk. What are you doing here, You know better than to come up here. Ugh. Come here, buddy. Oh, come here. Oh, no. It's causing everything to go Ari. Look at this guy. He decided to come visit. Oh, no. Oh, no. Gotta clear off a space for him. I have like a stool right beside my desk here. He likes to sit on and lay on. Watch me work. Watch me do my thing. There you go. All cleared off for you. My bad. I know that was a little messy for you there. I had to get that all organized. Now I dropped my goddamn mouse on the floor. Uh-oh, where'd it go? Oh, I got it. There we go. Okay, let's continue.
Defined the confines of his Fenrisian culture.
Speaking of the blood claw.
Picture to think about. These blood feuds were nothing in the face of the mounting enemies of the Imperium. They had to be better and put the past behind them. Prepare for the wars to come. Something he knew in his heart he fell far from achieving. But experience grants us all wisdom. Lord Beric agreed. The wolves would return the Flesh Terror's ship, and it would be Ragnar and Nalfir Razortongue who would do it. The two hated each other, but now their fate would be tied together.
Hey, Alfarius, I swear I heard Chance say that when you check Alfarius out. Maybe.
Poisonous flora.
Maybe. He's actually in on it.
Lifeless desert and
he's a plant,
swamps,
believe it or not.
Home to the most brutal, bloodthirsty chapter in the Imperium, the Flesh Terrors. Ragnar and Nalfir awoke in chains. They had been interrogated for weeks. No Space Wolf would come here, not least to return the Flesh Terror's vessel, or speak of healing the old wounds and feuds. The Dark Angels were in many ways the opposite of the wolves, boisterous where measured, inflexible where free-spirited. But the Flesh Terrors were like a mirror, both concealing a darkness within the blood.
Yeah.
Ragnar always having to keep in check the Wolfen curse, and his Flesh Terror counterpart, Vorain, keeping in check the black rage of Sanguinius.
Literally.
Many had called the wolves of Fenris brutes, just as the Flesh Terrors had been called savages. Ragnar,
I feel like the Flesh Terrors are a lot more savage.
To use his experience, he had to think more like a leader, just how Sergeant Hakon had told him long ago. To recognize the faults in himself, his anger, and to recognize the faults in those he looked up to too. Lord Beric, a great man, brave and a true Fenrisian, but one who represented the old ways of thinking, always seeking a glorious death. Perhaps there was a new way. There had to be. The future could not be this endless cycle. Met with contempt and hatred,
not or wouldn't
Ragnar and Nalfir
Definitely
were given
is.
their sentence. Exile. They were cast out to the wilds. This poisonous world would claim them eventually. It would be with Sergeant Voraine that Ragnar's words struck true. Mulling over the Space Wolf's words for weeks, he found the common ground, decrying to his brothers, tradition is nothing but the wisdom of the past, a valuable guide, but it is not law. We shouldn't live by its every twist and turns. The past is rife with error and ignominy. It takes strength to put your hatred aside, to forgive people who have caused you so much pain. Do you have that strength?
Flesh Tearers are noble savages who are just on the edge of being called renegades.
Set out to rescue his fellow Astartes.
See, I've heard very mixed things about the Flesh Tearers. They don't really give a fuck, do they? They just kind of like, you know, kind of go apeshit sometimes, don't they? Because they're suffering from like the Black Rage, right? Like, isn't that like a massive problem with them? Like, they're very, like, their brutality, I thought. Maybe I'm wrong. The Flesh Terrorists lean more into the Blood Rage? That's kind of what I thought, yeah.
Eyed his brothers and set out to rescue his fellow Astartes. For weeks, Ragnar and Nalfir Raistung survived the horrifying conditions of Cretaceia. All manners of nightmare creatures attempted to rip them apart and swallow them whole, but coming from an equally deadly world, the two had survived longer than any thought possible. After weeks of tracking, Sergeant Voraine found them. Their armor was rent, their skin was pale. Nalfir supported an enormous bite mark on his leg.
Damn.
A wound so poisonous that even an Astartes' enhanced biology couldn't keep up. They had been found, but it became clear to them that Nalfir's wound was fatal. The hallucinating and sickly Nalfir confessed to Ragnar that his vitriol was not of his own desire. Lord Beric had tasked him to do it. The revelation shocked Ragnar. Why? It was because Ragnar needed to be pushed, baited over his pride and ambitions, and most importantly, his anger. Ragnar carried the weight of the will of those who had died for him. Brothers and friends had given their lives to protect him because Ragnar had the potential to surpass them all. Beric did this because he believed in him. He could be their greatest champion if he was nurtured, tested, distilled. Instantly, Ragnar's perception of the brother who he had hated changed.
It's very true, like straight up, like everybody that has met Ragnar so far has seen the potential in him. They've seen what he could potentially do for their chapter, for their legion as a whole. But you know, early on, like they didn't know, like for better or for worse, what exactly he was going to do. They've just been trying to potentially get him a little bit further, to push him a little bit more, to try to get him to fulfill that role for them. Like they can see that he's got it in him. It's just like, how is he going to get there, right? That's the problem. You know, and they're trying to figure that out, I guess. And yeah, he's lost a lot of friends. Like, it's been very, very sad. He's lost a lot of friends that have straight up just given their lives for him so that he can keep going, you know? And without them, he certainly would not be in the position that he's in now. So, like, goddamn, you know, it's crazy the sacrifice that has been straight up put on display for Ragnar here. Black Rage is still seen more as a curse or a cancer. Talking about some fantasy there. I got you.
Instantly, Ragnar's perception of the brother who he had hated
Gotrek and Felix, nice, yeah.
Ragnar let his dying brother go.
Your great things about those books.
A massive draconic beast approached their position. Voraine chased after the wounded wolf, but Ragnar stopped him, not one to deny a Fenrisian the chance at a good death. Ragnar returned to Fenris, Nalfir's coffin in tow. A life led worthy of the sagas, and a new cemented mindset. Stepping out from Ragnar's shadow, Sergeant Voraine breathed the cold air of Fenris, walking into the den of wolves, ready for peace. The feud was over. Decades passed for the young wolf. The combination of the ferocious combatant, mixed with the knowledge of politics, and the wisdom gained from overcoming his mistakes, Ragnar was perhaps the brightest star rising through the walls of Fenris. Fighting side by side with Lord Beric as his wolf guard, warzone after warzone, He was there. The Space Wolf who knew when to be the soldier, the politician, and the Fenrisian. As a leader, he began to craft his own way of war, favouring the use of drop pod assaults, hitting hard and fast, then retreating back to allied lines. Ragnar allowed his warriors the good death they craved, but never put them in situations where it was pointless. It was decades of brutal conflict and wars within the Imperium when the terrible news came to him. Lord Beric had been slain. Rage gripped Ragnar, but not the hot-blooded sensation he had been a slave to before. It was cold, tempered anger that had the hallmarks of wisdom of past mistakes. Gathering the remnants of Lord Beric's company, Ragnar led the host directly to the corrupted Chaos Champion, and in a mind-numbingly brutal duel he slayed the traitor, avenging his mentor. The great company was leaderless, and when the time came, there was only one clear choice. Even the veterans, centuries old, acquiesced to the man who they had seen prove himself 100 times over. As the youngest ever in the history of the chapter, Ragnar ascended.
That's kind of crazy, yeah, like just how young he is in the grand scheme of things here. And he's a rising to chapter master, dude. Like, this is fucking kind of crazy. Like, yeah, even veterans, hundreds of years old, centuries old veterans are ceding to him. And like, I assume based on like Viking culture, they're very much, they're very much respecting of their elder, very much respecting of like the leadership of their eldars. So I imagine like they usually elect somebody with a bit more experience to lead their chapter. But like in this case, it's like, nah, Ragnar's proved himself. He's the G, man. He can do all this shit probably better than any of us. And he's shown that he's willing to get his hands dirty. Like he'll take punishment if it's deserved, right? So yeah, like I think he's a great fit for this, straight up. Company master / great company lord. The months of shame happened yet, or is that yet to come? I believe that's already happened. Dante was also young when he ascended. That's true too. That is true. Yeah. I feel like it's different with the Blood Angels though, in a sense. Like I feel like, again, like it's the Viking kind of like culture behind the Space Wolves. It just seems like it's a much bigger deal for somebody so young to ascend in such a way. Whereas like the Blood Angels, I feel like that might be more common just because
a part in saving
Russia's
my
blood.
life. After all the bloodshed between our chapters, I'll willingly fight at your side without hatred. Can you truly not do the same? Now, of all times, when it matters most, look at the sky, Soriel. Look at this world aflame. We stand together now, or we fall apart.
Soriel swallowed and said
Literally.
nothing.
I will say that's pretty, like, big dick of Ragnar there. Literally saying, like, yeah, I'm not gonna fight you. Can you literally not, like, put aside your fucking grievances for just a little bit? Like, look around you, look at the situation. Is this the time or place, motherfucker? Like, yeah, no, that's pretty apt. I'm glad that, like, somebody here could be the bigger man. You know what I'm saying? Like, straight up. There's no need to come to blows over it at this point in time, for sure. Turns out that the Canadian Army also caught for Katie. Kind of impressive for Canada. Truly, yeah. Canadians are the last defense against the forces of chaos, apparently in this case. Yeah, dude. Holy shit. Sorry, I swallowed. Yeah.
We fall apart.
Literally.
Soriel swallowed
Subtitles are crazy.
and said nothing.
For 40 years, I've carried the guilt and shame of leaving this duel unfinished.
Said Ragnar.
We've finished it now.
40 years,
At long
damn.
last, I've won it, Soriel. I choose how it ends, and it ends with both of our blades in the snow, not bathed in each other's blood. Yield, you proud bastard! Tend to your wounds, then fight by my side! I have warriors still trapped in the city. Help me find them, cousin.
Soriel scanned the ranks of his dark-armored brethren.
Like, literally,
Then
that isn't
watched the
asking for much,
growling,
to be fair.
Snarling wolves for the span of exactly 9 heartbeats. Thinking, dwelling, deciding.
I yield.
He said at last. There was a pause.
And we
I've
will
been
stand
giggling
with
for at
you
least
to
10
retake
minutes. Yeah,
Castle
bro.
Belloc.
The reaction was immediate.
That was a good one.
The Dark Angel ranks drew their blades from the earth, cleaning the snow from the steel, and sheathing them at once. Their solemn presence melted away, road warriors returning to their duties in ruthless order, preparing for the next battle.
My brethren
Said Soriel.
are not celebratory souls.
My brothers are.
Said Ragnar. A moment before the survivors of his great company howled to the night sky, long and loud. When the shouting ceased, Soriel cleared his throat.
I must see if my apothecary can graft an augmetic replacement to my arm before the next battle. We will speak again before we leave.
Wait.
Ragnar offered his hand, his left hand. Soriel took it, gripping it wrist to wrist, as Vorain had done upon greeting the Wolf Lord upon arrival.
Yeah, could you imagine if he offers him his right arm and he's just like, whoops, fucking psych, bitch. That'd be like the ultimate disrespect. War would be back on.
Earlier that day.
My thanks, Dark Angel, for your aid in the city.
Duty.
Soriel replied with a brief smile. It was the first sign of amusement Ragnar had witnessed from the Dark Angel. With that, the captain walked away. Ragnar watched Soriel's retreating back.
Their composure never ceases to amaze me. They're from cooler, calmer blood than you and I.
Admitted the flesh terror.
40 years.
Ragnar murmured.
4 decades of guilt, washed clean in an instant.
He shook his head, overwhelmed by the Dark Angel's stoic madness, yet shamelessly grateful for their part in his company's salvation.
You were lucky, Blackmane.
Ragnar turned to Vorain, forgiving him the use of the tribal name.
You believe so?
Even an axeman can judge a fight between swordmasters, Wolf. You were
Damn.
lucky to weave beneath that sword that would have severed your head from your shoulders. You won a duel you should have lost. You beat a foe who was only seconds from killing you.
Damn.
I had him.
Ragnar said, perfectly sincere. Vorain laughed, the sound rich and guttural.
Your secret is safe with me, Blackmane.
He
Damn.
gestured to the mountain fortress, to the grounded gunships, to the tank crew.
I truly wonder how, like, close the fight actually was. Like, if Ragnar did actually truly have him, or if he is being honest and saying, like, yeah, he actually almost beat your ass. You got very, very lucky there. Curious how, like, close the fight actually, like, was. Damn, dude.
He gestured to the mountain fortress, to the grounded gunships, to the tank
moves his hand away and starts moonwalking away, bro. I would be fucking triggered. That would be on site from there on out.
And dark angels in hesitant
Straight
alliance, cautiously mixing ranks.
Well, safe with me. And every soul who saw the only reason you dodged the killing blow was because you slipped on the ice.
You lie, Flesh Terror. You lie like a fireside storyteller.
At the speed you were fighting, can anyone be sure what they saw? I know what it looked like to me. Let's speak no more of it, cousin.
Interesting.
Sons of Fenris, now is the hour of blood. Now is the time to fight. By the end of this day, every warrior among you will have a new verse to add to your sagas. In the name of Russ and the All-Father, kill them all. Wolf Lord Ragnar Blackmane.
Damn.
Just under a century of life, the boy from the Thunderfist tribe had changed so much.
Only a century old is crazy.
In our own lives we evolve and learn. To think
like that isn't much time for them, for him to be in the position he's in.
For Ragnar,
like at all.
That evolution had continued for nearly 100 years. Just as how he had looked at Hastati such as Ranek, Sergeant Hakon, and Lord Beric, the young Bloodclaws look to the legend that leads their Blackmane company. The Wolf Lord walks across many battlefields, flanked by his 2 Fenrisian wolves that he found injured in the frozen wastes on Fenris shortly after his ascension to Wolf Lord. Not long after his promotion, Ragnar and the Space Wolves found themselves confronted by a situation that would change the chapter forever. The return of the 13th Great Company. Remnants had been found of these ancient brothers, and they were rushed to the Fang to await judgment. Their piercing yellow eyes fell over the warriors, who had learned to fear the inner beast. They were sane, loyal sons of Russ, but they were also Wolfen. Not like the fell creatures, but still changed. Logan Grimnar and his Wolf Lords debated over what to do, but it would be Ragnar who broke the deadlock, decrying to his brothers that the members of the 13th spread across the stars should be recovered. He had sat beside the fire with them, spoke of Leman Russ, the man, with them. He had seen their humanity. The great companies were loosed upon the stars.
And like to lose the 13th company, like these are veterans of a time long past, like the training element, like mind you, they're and that's where the weird thing comes in here, right? Because they're technically ab-human, right? At this point, right? Like they're changed. So I imagine like this is where you got like the Inquisition having like a fucking really big problem with this type of stuff, right? But the asset like that they are to the Legion or to the chapter as a whole, like cannot be denied, right? Like they would do great work, brought back into the fold, and great trainers too, great mentors for the new generation of Space Wolves growing up too, and training there. So yeah, why wouldn't you want them back in there as like a Space Wolf? Why wouldn't you want them back with you? That's where they belong, right? They're not overtly violent. They haven't lost their minds. Sure, keep them. Yeah, why not? Wolfen are a secret thing? Yeah, that's what I thought, yeah. Bit too crazy to be trainers? Well, maybe a bit too radical. Yeah, maybe not great trainers, yeah. Fair enough.
In their humanity, the great companies were loosed upon the stars. Ragnar and his brothers were set out to save their brethren. It was decades of an uneasy balance of fighting the enemies of the Imperium and looking for their ancient brothers. It was then that the dire news came of Abaddon's 13th Black Crusade. It was a brutal conflict. Many of the wolves under Ragnar's command met their glorious end. But again, he did not waste their lives. Never giving
Trainers
up
also
hope
puts
that
them in
they
a
would
position to be
fight their
admired by
way to
recruits who want to
safety.
start. He's not
And the
Wolfen. That's true too, but again, I think seeing them too can show you that even becoming Wolfen means that you're not necessarily losing yourself too, you know? So it's almost like, I understand what you mean, but it's almost like a double-edged sword, because it means that you could lose yourself, but not lose yourself. You know what I'm saying? Which is kind of awesome for them, you know, in a sense too. It goes to show a lot. Yeah. seeing your fears lessens those fears, I guess. Like, I totally know what you're saying. I absolutely know what you're saying. I think it's just a double-edged sword. There's pros and cons to both of it, for sure. I don't know if there is, like, a right choice when it comes to that type of thing. To embrace it or to try to push it aside and maintain it, in a sense. You know what I mean? Like, it's, yeah. I know, yeah.
Never giving up hope that they would fight their way to safety, and the hundreds of wolves that followed him, inspired by his bravery, reassured by his cunning jests and witty banter. But all of the wolves and defenders of Cadia's sacrifice had not been enough, as the planet was cracked open, destroyed by chaos. An enormous warp rift tore across the galaxy, splitting the Imperium in two. Ragnar and his depleted company managed to evacuate off the planet, piece of it cracking off as it was consumed in fire. The wolves and the Imperium were facing the most dangerous moment since the Horus Heresy, but Ragnar did not waver. In a move that would never have been done by his mentor Beric, he began to spread his company wide. He understood that the various worlds under assault,
spread his company wide
to see them. The wolves were a symbol of defiance, a point in which humanity could rally behind. Ragnar and the Blackmane company were stuck.
Cadia broke before the guard did. That's what they say, right?
To keep the Imperium from falling. There was no rest.
Cadia blowing up was very sad.
Became slick with corrupted
that animation in Battlefront Gothic is still sweet to me.
After a near endless cycle of battle, Ragnar discovered a
that whole
massive
intro is sick.
War that was rampaging across the sector. Gathering the Blackmane great company together, Ragnar headed towards the foul Xenos. Gazkul Mag Uruk Thraka, an enormous war boss, had been cutting a path of slaughter, leaving millions of dead in his wake. Descending to the world of Krognar, the wolves attacked. Both sides
planning on reading the Fall of Cadia soon? Damn.
As the battle raged on, Ragnar became
I wish I had more time to read more books, you know. I'm trying to read what I can when I can. I just, I just don't have like a ton of time. I'm making progress on some of my books. I'm making progress, but it sucks because I just wish I had more time to read, but it's just like between like life and like doing YouTube and stuff like that and trying to get stuff uploaded and stuff like that, it just doesn't leave a whole lot of time, anymore for me, unfortunately. I feel like that's almost where like audiobooks would come in way more handy for me, because then I could like still do stuff and like listen to them, It's just like, man, I love physical books so much more, I love like having a physical copy of a book, and especially like in your hand to read, Damn.
Ragnar became separated from his pack.
19 hours on audio, damn.
Inside a cathedral.
It's a long reading.
An enormous silhouette emerged from the shadows. Gazkul. The first Xenos Ragnar had ever slain was an orc, and if it was to be his last, then so be it. The duel began. The ferocious barbarian versus
Is he actually going to beat Gazkul here?
Ragnar fought with everything he had. A century of warfare behind each swing. The two were wounded, but evenly matched, until Gazkul grabbed Ragnar with his enormous hydraulic claw and began to squeeze.
Does he have a cigar in his lips? What the fuck?
Compress, his armor splitting. Ragnar, with the last of his strength,
you don't beat Gaz? Yeah, I guess not.
And severed the beast's head. Stumbling out of the cathedral,
maybe
the
you
young
do.
king raised Xenos' severed head and howled in glory, and then he collapsed to the ground. Ragnar, just like Hakon before him, entered the red.
Master's demanding attention. Hold on. I'll let him out. He woke up from his nap. There you go. Oh. Alright, we're good.
Ragnar, just like Hakon before him, entered the red dream, dying slowly. The primitive boy who had learned so much, who could have been so much more.
That's a tusk, not a cigar, is it? I just want to see that picture again. Is that a tusk? That's definitely not a tusk. That's 100%. That looks like something lit, does it not? Is that? And it's also like coming out of like his mouth. Like that looks like a tusk. That's a tusk. But this right here, that straight up just looks like a fucking like big doob that he's got dangling out of his lips, does it not? Am I wrong? Bits of armor? Okay. I was like, damn, like does that not look like just a fucking joint? Like just a big fat fucking, you know? I don't know, man. When I saw that, because I'm looking at like the smoke kind of like gleaming off of it, it definitely looks like a cigar. That's what I thought. It looks like a cigar. That's what I said first. I was like, that 100% looks like a cigar to me. Damn.
Dying slowly. The primitive boy who had learned so much, who could have been so much more, was about to have his name added to the glorious dead, ready for the sagas to be sung. Holding their lord's broken body, the Blackmanes found aid. The Indomitus Crusade. Primarch Robute Guilliman, son of the Allfather, had returned. With them came a new form of space marine, the Primaris.
Damn, okay.
Under the tutelage of the legendary Belisarius Call, offered to attempt to save Ragnar. His survival lay on crossing the Rubicon Primaris. The battered body
he's a
of
named
Ragnar
Hastati, so of course he's
lay
going to be
on
able to
that
do it.
cold steel table. He was cut open. New organs were placed.
Remember
in
getting
his
his head
side.
cut off as an old
Ragnar
game for
had
Gaz?
carried the
True,
torch
I
of
guess.
many. Ranek, Kjell, Lars, Nils,
It's a
Kara,
classic prank he likes to
Hakon,
pull.
Sven, Hagar, Gabriella, Torin, Nalfir, Beric, and his Blackmanes. He was not ready to join the halls of Russ, because as long as he remained, the galaxy would yet know hope. Ragnar Blackmane emerged. He had survived. Stronger, faster, and tougher than his brother Wolves. The young king has risen, reinvigorated, ready to challenge the enemies of the All-Father, the soldier, the politician, the Fenrisian, and the Wolf Lord. Ragnar, long live the Black Wolf of Russ.
It matters not how high your walls soar. It matters not how many will answer your call. It matters not how keen your blade glimmers, nor how bright burns your hearth fire. The wolf waits. The wolf waits in darkness for us all. We are the wolf that stalks the cold skies and swallows the star fire. We are the hidden in the darkness when the light has gone. Our light is within us. We run the ruin of fire in the darkness. Foes burn in our passing.
Damn, guys. Thank you for watching. I'm guessing that's just the end credits there, I'm assuming? Yeah, looks like it. Wow, that was Ragnar Blackmane, 40k lore by the Amber King, guys. That was a great video, recommended by our Prefect Fyr, of course. Yeah, I like the dialogue in that a lot. I really like the back and forth. The quotes in that was great. The conversations in that was great. I really liked like how human Ragnar kind of like was displayed as there. He definitely seemed to have a lot more like feelings than a lot of other Astartes that we've seen, and especially for like a space wolf, I didn't really expect that from him. I guess I didn't expect like that more like emotional side, that more like caring side to like kind of show. And like the banter between them and all that was super great to see. I really enjoyed that video. We got to leave a like on that, of course. Yeah, guys, wow. Again, first video I've really checked out about the Space Wolves too. I don't think I've checked out an actual lore video on their Legion at all. So maybe I should do that soon here in the future. If you guys have any good videos, make sure you post those in the Discord. And yeah, maybe I'll check them out sometime about the Space Wolves there. Man, and he gets the ladies. True. What are you thinking about them? Like, I don't know. Like, see, again, listening to like this video here, it makes me think that like, you know, I don't know if I love like their aesthetic, like the Space Vikings, you know what I'm saying? I do like it. I just don't know if it's like my favorite considering the other options there are in 40k. But I will say like the human side of them, like the banter, the actual like relationship side of like the Space Wolves. That's kind of what I like more about them. I'm not gonna lie, like the actual like the human side that they appear to show, you know, because like they're not perfect. They make mistakes. They're out in the open, but they admit. It feels like when they do make mistakes, you know, like it's not like they're too proud to admit that, you know, like in some cases you definitely see their proudness, but like it's often for like certain instances, you know, where it's like, you know, they're trying to keep their mind off shit or something like that. I don't know. I really enjoyed them, you know. I really enjoy like the culture of their legion too. Seeing like how Fenris operates, exactly what their initiation trials look like. It does seem a little bit different than some of the other legions we've seen as well. Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed them. I thought this was a great video. I thought it was great to learn a little bit more about the Space Wolves and Ragnar, especially in general here. Seems like a really, really cool character, and I guess he is currently leading the Space Wolves too at this point in time in the modern 40k setting. So great to add a little bit more context to our pool of knowledge there in that way. Yeah, guys, if you guys enjoy, make sure you guys leave a like on this video, on this stream. Subscribe if you aren't, and of course, leave your recommendations down in the comments below. Come on down, join our Discord if you're not a part of it. You're missing out. So yeah, come on down, join our Discord, guys. And yeah, I think we're probably going to some DayZ later. Probably some DayZ later. Maybe for sure if Tent is on later. We'll see what time's looking like. So yeah, I mean, I'd love to get some DayZ in there. It's been a couple days since we played for sure. I might stream some Frostpunk after this though, immediately. Not immediately, but like within the next hour or so, half hour to an hour. I might actually stream a little bit of Frostpunk, you know. Been saying I want to do that for the last few days, so we might get a little bit of that in today. So if you guys are interested in that, make sure you stay tuned. And yeah, guys, without any further delay, we're probably going to end this stream here. I'm pretty hungry. I got to go get a bite to eat. Quite hungry. Haven't eaten yet today, so we're going to do that. And yeah, without any further delay, this has been Centurion, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace, guys. Happy 4th of July to you. I know it's 4th of July. Happy 4th of July to all of our American viewers as well. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Without any further delay, see you guys in the next one. Peace, guys.